Anyway, hello. Hi, everybody. Also, music's really loud for me. Holy moly. I hope everyone's doing well. Let me just... let me turn down the music, and then I turn it up. Brilliant. Good streamer right there. Ooh, 'tis the season for colds and stuff. It is. It is. It tis the season. But yeah, I'm gonna do some tall landscapes today. Some vertical, some tall boys. Not super tall, though. Kinda tall. Actually, I don't even know if this actually... I'm terrible at... What happened to my music? Oh, song change. Let me hit loop real quick just to make sure. I just want to double check that this is in fact roughly 4:6. So I'm gonna crop it to that. That's nearly square. I know, but there's this weird optical illusion. It's hard to know. I think it's 4:6. I want it to be 4:6. Let me just. It's pretty close, right? So 1.5 ratio is what I want. If my math is correct. And so 1,000, hold on. Let me just math real quick. 1,050 pixels divided by 8, 5, 1.2. Yeah, okay, that's not quite. It's not quite, I don't think. Or does that hold true? Yeah. It's not quite right. It's close-ish. Whatever. It'll work. I'm probably not going to make it a print anyway. It does feel pretty square. But yeah, there's a thing that happens. Also, hi, Vegas. Hi, everyone. Hi, hold on. I don't know when I gotta go back to Twitch chat to see. Canada, hello. Good morning. Azel Ruthven, hello. Skittle, Vegas. There's a bunch of you I didn't acknowledge. That sounds closer to 4.5 based on what you said. Yeah, I think it is. I think this probably is. Yeah, I was probably doing that for an instant. You know, my guess is it is 4 to 5 because I was probably made it based on Instagram ratios, and that's ideal for Instagram. But yeah, this one is definitely, it feels a little squat. But what's funny is I'm really bad at telling the length of things when it's vertical. If it's horizontal, like in a sort of timeline, you know, if I flip this way, suddenly it feels either wider or less, like this feels more, I don't know, like I have a better gauge for that than I do for this for some reason. It's really hard for me to tell how tall something is when it's like this, or how long or wide or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense. Like there's been times like even like if well, I don't know, maybe I don't have a good example, but anyway, yeah, we're gonna paint on this today. We're just gonna do some vertical ones. Don't really have a plan other than maybe start out with some black and white, maybe some graphical, mostly two-color painting. I don't know. Oh. Wrong layer. It started out not on the wrong layer. I get what you mean. Not sure why that would be the case, but I think I get... Oh, there's some... I mean, there's some, like... I think there's even some pretty, like, classic sort of optical illusion, like, not studies, but you know what I mean, like, case exam... You know, like, the illusion of this, where you make the line point like this, and then you make another line... Well, hold on. And then you make another line that goes like this, and then you ask people which line is longer, and, like, people will see this line as shorter than this line because, like, your brain kind of extends it outward or whatever it's doing, but, like, you don't really think of the line as stopping here when you see this, and this one, for whatever reason, you think of it as, like, contained in here, and so your brain is like, oh, this one is shorter. And there, I think there's the same, and I think there's been the similar, I mean, I don't know if this optical illusion is holding true right here, because there's a bunch of other lines to, you know, measure against. But I think there's optical illusions with, like, vertical. You can measure, like... I think that the example goes something like this, where you take a segment, and then you say about how many of these segments is this line. And people are remarkably good at figuring, like, this would go in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say, right? But once you make that same line but vertical, people become awful at it. Like so much worse than they are, or even if you have a horizontal line, right? Same thing. Like, how many of this line goes into this? People get like way worse, I think. Anyway, it's just a really weird thing that like people are just bad at measuring vertical. For some reason, I probably because there's like, you know, perspective and stuff when you're looking in real life, and in real life, horizontally is not as exaggerated. Whereas if you're looking up at something, it's very foreshortened. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why. All I know is that's a thing that exists. Kind of like we were talking about last stream, right? With how there's a lot of stuff in psychology where like we know this is we know this works and we know it happens, but the why I'm not exactly sure on. But anyway, I struggle when I do the same thing sometimes when I'm making a this occurs sometimes when I have a grid. So if I have like let me just find a grid. Where is a grid? Like this. Sometimes when I have a grid and I'm like, okay, I need to stretch this down far enough that the other grid will show, because there's another layer of grids under here. And so sometimes I'm like, is this far enough? Whoop. So like, is this far enough, or do I need to go further? And all the time I'm like, oh, I need to go further. But then I go further, and I end up having like a whole bunch of extra space showing down below. This time I was actually pretty on point because I've practiced this a lot. But normally I'm way off, and I'm like, I drag it down this far. I'm like, wait, how did I think that this was the amount of space of a square? Like it's like my measuring goes wrong. And yeah, anyway. And if I do the same this way, I don't have the same problem. Like I'm much more accurate going this way than I am downward. Anyway, it's very strange. I feel like I run into this all the time. Maybe it's just confirmation bias. I don't know. But anyway. Team Dragon Butt reporting for duty. Hey, Recriner. Team Dragon Butt. That is a name. How's it going, Recriner? Blaze Nova. Hi, I hope everyone's having a great day. Thank you. I am having a great day so far. I mean, minus the sniffles and maybe me getting sick. But other than that, I'm good. Ready to do some painting. I'm going to start out with some black and white. Some compositions. Maybe like a nice, I don't know, like a wall or something that sort of goes into the scene with a sharp perspective and then comes up. Just Fiction, hello. Hello there. How's it going? You're just being dumb. Nope, you're not being dumb. It's fine. You are officially Team Dragon Butt. I'll be here lurking while I write stuff for school. All right, good luck. Good luck with school stuff. I want to do a bit more of like a no-tan painting. So, for example, instead of just thinking compositionally, I'm more thinking about it as the light itself, which is different than just a general, like an atmospheric perspective sketch, which is sometimes what I do. So I'm not quite sure what how I'm gonna do this, but maybe we'll go like that. Maybe there's like little fans that go this way. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Today's gonna be a little bit more of a chill stream, I hope. Hopefully no ranting. No, I don't know. That's probably not true. Let's be real. I'm gonna end up ranting. I'm sure I will end up ranting. But I don't know, I'm hoping to keep it chill today. A chill, mildly short-ish stream. No ranting, that's not I know, it's not possible. I can pretend, I can be hopeful, wishful thinking. It's the season of miracles. 'Tis the season. Christmas miracles. It's possible. Just gotta believe. Believe in the no rant. Yeah, what do I want to paint though? That's the real question. This bright light is a bit much. I mean, it doesn't matter though. We can make the light any strength we want. I don't know. Let's just play around. Let's just make some graphical things. So maybe the background here is gonna be light. Maybe we get a dark shape and then we do like a light shape like this. And then light here. I don't know. I'm just gonna make some general shapes to start with. Nothing fancy. Basically two-toned. That's my goal. It would be nice if I knew what I wanted to paint today, but I don't. You said strong light, and I started imagining a feather with a big mustache. Or with big muscles. Why did I read that as mustache? A feather with a big mustache? Feather with big muscles. Ooh, a strong light. Like, okay, a strong lightweight. Well, I mean, isn't that what you call, like, a lightweight? Like, the heavyweights and the lightweight, but, like, they're still the strongest in their weight? So, funny enough, isn't calling someone a lightweight still kind of inferring that they are strong, but just light? So it's less about, like, because everybody, if you're in like a boxing match, right, and there's like the heavyweights and then the lightweights or whatever, like you're still like the strongest in that weight class, right? Like everybody is strong relative to like the general public. Featherweight, that's the thing. Featherweight, not lightweight. Yeah, featherweight. That's what I was thinking of. And so, like, I don't know. It doesn't... Yeah. That's what I think of when I think of a light feather, or a strong feather. Is like just that weight class. I don't know. Small people who are really strong. All right, what do I want to do here? I have no idea, but my theory is as long as I keep on making shapes, maybe a bit abstract, maybe a lot more small concentration of shapes, so like something like that. Maybe I'll come up with an idea. I kind of like that. That's kind of neat. Hello, Coffee More Coffee. How's it going? Hope you're doing well today. Okay, I kind of like this, actually. And then we could have, like, the light up here. And so this could be, like a rock wall. So that, imagine, like, a path up here, or rocks kind of coming down this way. And then you have like a figure up here. Very, very simple values. Technically, this is going to be dark, but it's probably going to be filled in a lot. Hello! Sagamore Studio. Hello, everyone is doing well. Gonna doodle along. Seems to be working well. Thanks. Yeah, hope the doodling along is good, and hope you are productive. That's what I like streams for. The doodling along. It's great. It's what got me into Twitch in the first place. Well, it's what got me into art Twitch. Is like, oh, I wanted to draw, and then lo and behold, there's people online drawing at the same time, and it was just nice to work alongside people. Coffee More Coffee says, I'm good. Did some traditional art for a change. Hope you are doing good. I am doing well. Today's a good day. Let's make some more shapes. Some more dark stuff. Maybe we'll do some lighter shapes. Shared doodleage, as they call it. Exactly. Shared doodleage. And if at any point you want to actually share the doodles that you're working on, you are welcome to. You can post a link directly in chat if you ever want to share stuff. Same for anyone else, obviously. If anybody's working along and wants to share stuff, we have a Discord you can share it in, and also if you just have a link, you don't have to join Discord if you don't want to. But if you want, you can. Vegas says, I've been struggling with a post-peak... Wait, with a post... You know what? Can I do this? No, I can't. Hold on. You've been struggling with a post-peak slump or something for your comic. I drew something I was pretty proud of, but now everything feels like crap. No, that sucks. My initial, whenever I read this and I hear, oh, I was gonna say no rants, but now I'm gonna go on rant. I wonder that whenever I hear people say that, my first assumption, which is probably not even the most likely, so it's like bad diagnosing, but my initial assumption is like, did you just make something really awesome and now you're trying to hold all of your other work to that same expectation? Because I know that that's, for me, it's just such a common thing where like I make a really awesome piece and then I just like everything sucks afterwards because I'm in my head I'm trying to compare the early stages to the finished thing, or to like the idea that worked, sort of this almost like a survivorship bias thing where like the idea that made it through your last project is the one that was good, and so now you're just like comparing it to that one because it's like, but you not comparing it to all the crappy ideas that didn't work, kind of. I don't know. Hello, or not crappy, but you know what I mean, less good. Redeem Day highlighted message says, hello, I'm not sure if you can see my comment like that. I can see your comment like that. Moonsky, I can in fact see your comment. Stormeagle says, hello, happy today. Happy today to you too, Stormeagle. Hope you're doing well. Hope that today is going. Azel says, just shared my last piece on Discord. Let's take a look. I'm not even on Discord yet. Hold on, let me log into Discord, or... Oh, I am, actually. Hold on. Oh, I like this. Is this the Ouroboros? Wanted. 35 million. And then this other character. 7 billion? That's a lot. I like it. Very nice art. Oh, I didn't see these, the recent studies. That was posted yesterday by Fiction Lara. Ooh, very nice cloud shapes. I love those. So good. Hello, says Druffzilla. Happy today for me too. Happy today. Hope you're doing well. Hope your today is good. The message labeling. Why that, or else it couldn't go. This is the one that can help me for my message to appear. That's annoying. That so try it without doing that. What if you just type a message without that? Does it really not go through at all? That's so strange. Because you would think if it's recognizing you as a viewer, like just as a user. Oh, hey, there's a bot I can ban. Hold on. Don't click any links there, folks. There's a bot. Ban user. Hold on. Ban user. Yeah, that's really weird that, like, I guess it kind of makes sense if you're going through the app, then the app would show, but if you're not, yeah, I can't see anything if you're typing anything else. That's very strange, Moonsky. I don't know what that is. I mean, the only thing I could think is a VPN, but if you said you're not using one, then I'm out of guesses. We've had issues with VPNs before, but it's always fixed itself when turned off, so I don't know. I do not know, but I hope it gets sorted. Because having people spend bits, not bits, that's not bits. Having people spend channel points for their message to be seen is just a little bit obnoxious, and I obviously don't want it like that. But yeah, I can't see anything right now. But yeah, is anyone doing anything exciting? Let's see, winter break is basically starting, right? For a lot of people, like after this week. I know Recriner said they're in sort of dead week. Lots of studying, reading for exams and stuff. I think. Here's your blog from your blob from today. I'd rather the blog. Do people still blog? They might. Actually, they do. I know some people still have blogs. Ooh, this is so good. This is really nice. I even added your phone number and activated. Yeah, you don't need to do that. That's not the issue, because I don't have that turned on. That's why you just saw, like, a bot spam my channel with buy followers or whatever, or buy viewers or something. Yeah, I don't have any sort of, like, authentication thing turned on for my channel, so you should be able to type even without it. I don't think that's the issue. I mean, it's gotta be something else. I don't know enough about it. Again, being on my end, right? I can only guess at the problem, but yeah, I don't know. It's that is annoying though. If they're hopefully other people aren't having problems where they try to chat and they can't. I haven't banned you, have I? Have you ever been banned from my channel? I don't think that would be it. No, I don't see that. No, it doesn't look like you're banned. I'm just throwing things out. That'd be funny, though. You're actually someone who got banned a long time ago from, like, IP banned or something. Yeah, I don't know. You're always welcome to chat on YouTube. I think, wait, did I start my YouTube stream? I think I did. You're always welcome to chat on YouTube if you need. That's another way that I can view it. Other people won't be able to see your message if you do that, but I guess they can't anyway, so there's that. But yeah, that's annoying. That's frustrating. Could be like a little bit of a snowy scene. Although, you know what I want to do? I want to try something. So I'm going to get rid of the snow here for a second, because I want to just treat this as light and shadow. So I think light would look good here, but we can still have snow elsewhere in this painting. Little trees. For example, like this could still be in snow, it just might be in the shade. Right, so I'm trying to like block out the shadow, and then the materials and stuff will be done later. I don't know if this is a good way of doing it or not. Right, so I can still lighten up all of this if I need, but this is just telling me where the light and shadow is. So like here's the light, a little spotlight. Maybe we have like a character or something standing in here. And then this way, so even if this is snow, let's say this is a character in white standing against snow. So even if all of this is in snow, we're still going to have this is snow and shadow right behind the character, and this is snow and shadow. So even then it'll still be clear because we're silhouetting it against the values, not the materials. So I think this will work. And of course the character probably isn't going to be in white. They're just going to be in the light, I guess. It's like Little Red Riding Hood type character. It's the same. I tried. Vegas says, can you comment in other channels? It's the same you tried, even when I tried to reply to you without the label, it didn't take it. Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah, that's got to be some setting or something on your end with a VPN or a, I'm trying to think, maybe like a, maybe it's a, could it be like a port setting? No, I don't know how that would work. I don't know enough about troubleshooting tech to know, but it's got to be something, right, on your end. I just don't know what it is. I would just do a Google search, maybe slap in Reddit at the end of the thing and see if people on Reddit have experienced that, because I'm sure someone has, where it was like some problem that they were overlooking. Okay, there, that's a nice little thing. I like the light here. If the light's here, though, maybe we need the light on this side, too? I mean, that might get a little convoluted. But the reason I want to do that is that way maybe I can put some shapes over here in light. So, like, some shapes over here in light. Something like that. That kind of work. Yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye out for any of your messages, Moonsky, that aren't highlighted. And of course, it's always possible I also miss it when it's highlighted, but I try not to. I try to read every message, but sometimes I do skip over them. Okay, so I like these two compositions. Those are fun. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't do a lot of vertical compositions, so it's kind of nice to play around doing some more of this. I've done a lot of this in black and white with landscape sort of orientation, so the, this way, hamburger orientation, as opposed to no, wait, isn't that what you call it? People in school call this, no, that's hot dog. Hot dog versus hamburger. So for some reason, the wide one is this is hot dog, and then this is hamburger. So that's hamburger orientation. I'm painting in hamburger orientation. Very American. But it still does me even without VPN. Yeah, so it's probably not VPN. It's probably, there's obviously another issue. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, do you have, are you the one who set up your Wi-Fi? Maybe the entire thing is going through a VPN? So, like, maybe it's not local on your machine, but maybe it's, like, through the, like, router settings or modem. I don't know how that works. I'm just guessing. Throwing darts at a dartboard. I don't know. I can't really help troubleshoot from my end, though, without knowing more. And also, I don't know more, so I'm going to be useless. Okay, let's do... Andreas Roca recently had a challenge on Instagram with 20 vertical 1-hour environment sketches in 14 days. Pretty cool. Very unusual to draw vertically after a while drawing horizontal scenes. Yeah, Andreas Roca is amazing. One of my favorites. He's great. I also follow him on Instagram. You know what's funny though? After having seen all of his work, like, I mean, the 1 hour thing I don't care for. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but yeah, that doesn't bother me too much. I on stream it's different a little bit because I'm rambling and talking and not focused. So time is not accurate. Like if I say, oh, I painted this in 2 hours, it was probably like 45 minutes, right? If I say I painted in 4 hours, it was probably like 2 hours. You know, it's so hard to like gauge time on stream because half of it's just yapping. But and also the time that I do spend is unfocused, and so it's kind of I unless I'm doing it off stream, I wouldn't want to do like the here's what I can do in 1 hour type of thing. I don't like to, you know, I'd rather just not mention the time spent. But I do like, I thought it was fun. I think the vertical format works really well for Instagram. So I think if you're trying to do like an Instagram push type thing or social media push, some sort of like, posting a lot of quick things in a format that's different. I mean, it's very much like Inktober, right? Where, originally I think it was Jake Parker wanted to get better at inking, and so he made a challenge that like he's just going to ink for 30 days. And it wasn't really for social media. It was more just like he didn't feel like he was great at this thing, but he wanted to do it, and so he did it, and get better at a certain skill. And I think that's good. And yeah, doing vertical paintings when you're not used to them is definitely a good thing to do, right? You make me want to do black and white sketches now. Do it. Yeah, I'm trying to focus. So these black and white sketches, it's funny because even when I paint in black and white, I oftentimes, here's what I typically do, is I'll do something like this, and it'll almost be like an atmospheric perspective. It'll be like an atmosphere painting. And so if I have like snow in here, I might get some values already, kind of unrelated to, it's not just light. It's not just light and shadow. And because a lot of times my paintings aren't just light and shadow, they're more just like full, just grayscale paintings. They can look nice, but I'm trying specifically today to do more like light and shadow, because if I were to cover all of this, everything in here that's in shadow with one color, you couldn't tell what it is, right? Because the light itself doesn't, well, you kind of can, but the light itself doesn't give you the forms, right? And so I'm trying to specifically carve the lighting out so that the light itself is the thing that's making it, clear, right? And then the shadow, yes, there's going to be form and stuff in here, but that is not important to the main composition. And so I'm trying to treat more of like a notan, I guess, which is a word, apparently. I still don't fully know what it means, so I'm probably using it wrong. But it's more of like focusing on the light and shadow shapes rather than just overall composition of light and dark, because there's more to light and dark than just light. Like there's also value, and so sometimes you have a light value against a dark value, and you can make that read even if it's all in shadow. And so that could actually be your focal point, is like a character in a white shirt in the shadow, and like they'll still show, right? And so you can, yeah. So my focus is a little different, but yeah, no, black and white stuff is, I think, great. I think it's great to do. It's more of a frame to not overthink it when you're prone to it. True. That's true. When I did the challenge, it helped me. Yeah, I mean, I find that painting quickly, and I actually have a 5-minute thumbnail redeem thing here on Twitch. Sagamore. Is that how you say your name? Sagamore? And I find that painting, well, actually just painting on stream in general, but painting quickly, yeah, Vegas. Understand if Notan is basically binary values. Yeah, so it's just the light and dark, but typically, like a dark T-shirt in the light is still going to read as the light family. So you kind of ignore the fact that it's a black T-shirt. You're just saying, is it in light? Yes. Is it in shadow? No. Right? Like some of the most like age-old art wisdom is sort of separating your lights and your light and your shadow values. So yeah. Sometimes when I do these 5-minute thumbnail redeems, the big thing is just like falling back on what you already know, and that's actually what I was going to mention with Andres Roca, because one thing that I've noticed with his painting, if you're already familiar with his work, like 90% of his 1 hour paintings are basically the same as things he's already painted in the past. Like they're different, like they may be taking, a horizontal version of a painting and turning into a vertical version, or like something that's very similar. And like you can see almost, from the color palette to the shapes, and it's like, oh, here's the things he's done before. And I find myself doing that a lot on stream, where it's less like, it feels more like a party trick, not in a bad way, but it feels more like a party trick than actually like thinking through and making art that you're proud of, kind of. But like it can still look good because you're not overthinking, so you're just doing what you know works. That's something that I find happens a lot. But yeah, let's do a 5-minute thumbnail. I'm gonna do it in color because I think for these, it just makes more sense for me. Anyway, let me find my timer. 1 second. Timer, open up. I don't even know if I think I have the timer on this. Do I? I might have to, hold on. If I do this, okay, well this works, but now I'm gonna hide this webcam overlay. 1 second. There. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna resume the thumbnail countdown timer. Once I can reopen up chat. Curious, black and gray compos. Yeah, I'm starting with black and white. Starting with black and white. Or black and gray, whatever you want to call it. Light and dark. Mostly two values. That's the goal. All right, let's go. Nicely done, thanks. Yeah, I'm just gonna start, but I'm gonna do a little bit of the same thing. Although I'm gonna start with like, I don't know, maybe like some roofs in light and shadow. Good old roof shapes. Maybe a nice blue-gray sky. Oh, some cool and I feel like we could be totally looking at the top of a scene. So like this could be like a wall or something. Oh. Dark blue maybe? Or dark red? I don't know. Something like that would be nice. Maybe little houses. Little houses. I'm using a lot of lasso tool today. I'm finding the more and more I'm using lots of lasso tool. But yeah, this kind of thing, I feel like I rely much more on what I already know. Because I just don't have the time to like try to explore stuff, you know? There's like no room for real exploration. Little bit of a castle in the background. Maybe there's some more thingy. Oh, it's saving. Maybe there's some more thingies here too. It's a spaceship getting ready to take off. Yeah, maybe. It does kind of look like that, doesn't it? Yeah, I was trying to make like roofs of a house or of a castle. Yeah, I was thinking castle, but fair enough. I mean, you know, that's the thing is when you're... Yeah. It does kind of look like... Yeah, it does kind of look like that. A minute left? I'm cruising. I am cruising. But yeah, something like this is nice, I think. And little shapes up here. But this type of thing is, you know what we could do? We can bust out the color dodge. So I'm going to add a little bit of light gray to this, because that's going to end up being color dodged, I think. Hold on. Let's do something like that. Ooh, Vegas redeemed a print. Nice. Sea Serpent. Is that the underwater one? With the person with like doing the hiccup pose with the sea serpent? I assume it is. With like the hand outreached. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing with that one. Oh, let's do this. Let's grab a blow dodge and an orange. Oh, I don't like that. 16 seconds. Nope, that's not right. I could do like sunset. Get a little bit of light coming in. I don't know, time's up. Uh-oh. Time's up. Okay, that works. That works for a thumbnail. I like that one. And I'm still like adding to it. I'm cheating. Cheating. Okay, anyway, there's that. I like that one. That one works. Okay, we'll go like this. Okay, that'll work. Just trying to cover up some of that light space. Okay, there we go. That's my 5-minute thumbnail. I like it. I like it quite a bit. It's more, I don't know, it's more fresh than some of mine that I do. Artist found cheating live? Oh yeah, because I'm going over the time limit? Yeah, yeah. Great thumbnail. I see an ancient spaceship that was turned to... You know, that would be... See, that's what I really like about this kind of just starting without an idea, is that if you see that, the nice thing is then you could be like, oh, like now the shapes that I make are going to change into that, right? So maybe this started out as space... You know, maybe it didn't start out that way, but then you're like, okay, well, how do I make it look like a spaceship more? And then you can go and get references and like make it actually spaceship looking. You know, because this might be a little bit, you know. But yeah, that's such a cool... It's very much like seeing shapes in the clouds, and you're like, oh, what if I turned it into that thing that I see? That's so much how I work these days. I like how 3 and 4 look like they're part of the same scene. Oh, they kind of do. Yeah, yeah. With like yeah, kind of. That's funny. Yeah, they have that white bridging them. Yeah, they could fit together. That's funny. Funny how that works. Every time somebody mentions that, I always think of all the Magic the Gathering's card cycles, because they have these things called cycles in Magic the Gathering, which is basically like, they'll commission one artist to do 5 cards of 5 different colors. But each of the cards has like a common theme. So they're kind of the same card, but of each color. And then sometimes the artists will do like a painting that will span 5 thumbnails, and then they'll bridge them together. So that if you have all 5 cards, you can stick them next to each other, and it'll kind of look like one continuous scene. It's pretty neat. It's not a thing that's super common. I know they did it a fair bit in Zendikar, where they basically divide up like 5 lands that are all from the same artist, and the artist will go across and paint like a landscape that will span the, you know, all 5 lands, and then each land will have its colors, right? Like white or red, green, blue, and they'll basically span the color pie. So you can just look up I mean, there's a lot of them. They don't always fit together. I don't know what you call it when they fit together, but basically they're just I don't know. Let me try. So there's probably a list. I don't know if there's a good list of ones that line up like this. Like, but basically a cycle, if you just go to like MTG fandom and wiki, and just Google cycle, not cycling, which is a mechanic, but cycle is a collection of cards that have one or more relationships with one another or share a common theme, such as creature type or particular game mechanic. A cycle can be made of any number of cards. Most common cycles consist of 5 cards, one of each color. I don't know what you call like border, like the art wise though. All I know is that normally, so I know there's a cycle of borderless, not borderless, they're like, let's see, Zendikar land connected art. Basically they were art where when you put them, they weren't like, no, maybe it wasn't Zendikar. Now I'm trying to think. There's a word triptych, but is there one for 5 cards? I don't know. I don't know if there's like a special term for it where you could Google it. All I know is that it's almost always done with a cycle, because cycles are typically commissioned by one artist, so there's like a continuity between the art. But the art isn't typically set up like this. Like this is very rare, but I know some artists have done this, and I'm trying to think of like which cards or which sets. There's a handful of them in Magic the Gathering. It's not super common. And I don't know how you would find them. I don't know how you'd find them. Patmar S2D on YouTube says, looks really nice. Oh, thank you. I was zoomed into this, so hopefully you weren't saying this looks really nice. No, yeah, I'm just doing some black and white sketching right now, and then we're going to take one of these and turn them into a painting. And so we're kind of planning out what to do. Triptych is what you were referring to. There are those images where it's cut into 3 vertical strips. Yeah, it probably is a triptych. Let me just type in like MTG triptych art. Probably won't, but they're basically that. Maybe I'll have to look it up properly after stream it, because I don't... Yeah, but that's the thing though, no one's gonna like know that word, and so if you Google it, is Google gonna know? You know, like even if that's what it's called, right? How would you... Because it's not like official, you know, like it's one of those things where like it's the artist's choice and they get approved, but it's not like it's not really a thing. Anyway, I'll have to Google it, or if somebody wants to, you can try and find it. I know a lot of the land cards people have done that with the land cards. There was like a whole thing. I know, like, I saw a post on Reddit a couple years ago where somebody had gotten like the prints, or maybe it was I don't think it was the official art. It might have been the official art where they ended up buying all 5 of the cycle and they put them next to each other on the wall to connect them. It also might have just been them printing out the prints really big. I don't remember. But all I know, it was like, it was kind of cool to see it all sort of laid out like that. Penteptic. Penteptic. Okay. All right. So let's go back. I got to get back in the mindset of light and shadow. That's what I'm trying to do. Purely light and shadow, regardless of subject matter. Just a quick search, but this is like from Board Game Geek site or something. Yeah, exactly. This is a good example. Yeah, where it's these kind of all... Yes. So normally they're not done from the... Well, kind of. Hold on. These are all more like each 1 is cut into 5. If you scroll, yeah, as you scroll down, it does a better job. But yeah, this is a good here. I'll put it on the screen real quick. So like this, a lot of them are put into pairs. So like this one is a pair, but you can see the original art for it was a full painting, and then they divide it up. Same with these lands, Lorwyn. You had, you know, different sets here. Or, yeah, so, but this is, and then sometimes they'll do it for like one artist will do it for multiple cards, because they'll be commissioned for like 4 planes. But this isn't, I was actually more talking about spanning the colors, more like this. But I know there's some examples of it spanning 5 colors. I'm trying to think of, I'm sure there's more, but yeah, sometimes the art will span 5 colors, and it's pretty cool to have like the full thing. Like these two down here. If I can just zoom in properly. Like these 2 cards connect at the border, even though one is an island and one is a swamp. And so, so they change a little bit. I always thought that's neat. Oh wait, you guys can't see that. Whoops. Sorry. Screen share's not on. Yeah, I just realized screen share's not on. But anyway, so stuff like this, where you have these 2 cards are both art by Warren Mahi, and they took the, you know, one piece of art basically and drew a line down it and made one an island, one a swamp. Or you have plains, an island, and they connect at the border, right? Forest, plains, you have like the tree coming in. But yeah, there's a bunch of them. Some of them are split up differently, like this, I guess, it counts. Or this top image shows the full image, and then each one is split up into a different card. This, normally though, I always thought of it more as like, typically they did it with different colors, but this is all the same color, so that's kind of interesting. I didn't actually know those existed. This is kind of more close to what I was thinking. This is old Magic cards, but, you know, where it's like one image kind of, you know, into one. Anyway, I always thought that's fun. It was always neat. Obviously, then you have things like this, where this is, you know, 2 colors, but if you divide it, one is a swamp, one is the mountain, or represents mountain, but together they're just like a nice painting. Anyway, so I always thought that was cool. It's always a fun idea. And to try to make each part have like kind of a distinct mood if you frame it just right. Like if you only looked at this, it actually looks like a swamp, right? And if you only looked at this, you could be like, yeah, that's mountainy, you know, rocks and stuff. And it doesn't really read. You definitely got a possibility. Yeah, we could do that one day. Maybe next stream. Maybe on Monday we'll do a 4 or 5 paintings across as a really long thumbnail, but try to divide it up. Yeah, they're somewhat common in Magic the Gathering because of the way that they commission artists. And like I said, that way is by having cycles. Where they'll give one artist like 5 cards at a time, and each card is similar to each other, you know, in some way. So it's kind of asking for the art. I don't think they specifically ask the artist to do that. I think that's an artist choice thing. Maybe some of the times it is like a, you know, they want them to do that, but I don't think it's always the case. Don't mind me as I'm gulping my tea. You can probably hear it as I was gulping. BFM was a fun card to play. Yeah, was that an official Magic set, or was that one of the unhinged sets? I forget. Like, that was like an unhinged set, right? Unhinged or unglued or whatever you call them. The unsets. I think it was one of the unsets. I can't remember. Somebody could look it up. The broken egg one? Yeah. Yeah, those sets are fun. There's Mark Rosewater talks about that in his Drive to Work podcast, where he talks about like a lot of times they use the unsets as like a testing ground for some of the more ridiculous ideas. Like, what if you had 5 cards that come together to make 1 card? And like, you know, stuff. I think Yu-Gi-Oh did it first. But it's always fun because sometimes those cards don't work in like a normal Magic set because they aren't like, they just tend not to do that well. But it's fun to, you know, it's fun to make them and fun to play around with ideas like that. And they actually have had like that. I think that he even refers to that card in particular because a lot of times cards that come together to make 1 card, like it was kind of it took many tries to get that to work. But then there are split cards, there's flip cards, you know, where like 1 card is on the back of another card, and it has different forms. Like a shapeshifter might flip from one face to the other face, and so it goes from essentially 1 card to a different card and back and forth. And instead of using 2 separate cards, they've split it. Sometimes they'll split the card like this, where you actually turn the card sideways, and you have basically 2 cards like this. They've done cards where they have the card split like this, where 1 card is, you know, let's draw mountains, mountain, sun, right? They'll have like 1 card like this, but then you flip it and it's another environment or another card down here that's different, you know, maybe spikies or something. You know, so they basically have split it this way, but instead of having a card, you know, and then again, sometimes it's this way. They've had a lot of different styles of double-faced cards. They don't typically do the BFM type card where you have the, you know, 2, if you have both cards and you can play it as 1 card. They don't typically do that. Also, I'm upside down, aren't I? No. What's happening? Is this right? I'm so confused. Oh, there we go. I was upside down and rotated. That was very confusing. But yeah, I guess the closest thing that I can think of in Magic now to that is where you have, if they'll have things like, you know, if you control another card named this, then that card will get a bonus. But the original card still does something on its own. If that makes sense. Because they don't want it to be a useless card when you draw it if you don't have the other. Camp 8-Bit says, off topic-ish, how many of these backgrounds do you do per session? So, I mean, it depends. Normally, like, between 6 and 9. But these are going to be, I'm going to slap some color on these here in a little bit. Right now, I'm mostly doing black and white, just to play around with some graphical stuff. But yeah, typically like between 6 and 9, and then I take one. Here, I can show you what I do in like a normal day. So this is typically about what I do, something like this. And then I take one of these and I'll work on it till the end of stream. And so I think in this particular day, we did this painting. So it was this one. But generally, I let you guys vote on which one I'm going to work on. So yeah, just stuff in color typically. Another example, if I just scroll randomly and click. Maybe that one. No, I don't know. Hold on. There's a bunch, but I'm trying to find one that looks nice. What's this one? These are very colorful. So here's some I did. I actually like this one a lot, even though I don't know what it is. Also, ignore the pink. The pink is very bright. Oh, and also we have the time's up thing that doesn't need to be there. But yeah, like in this day, I think we chose this one, if I recall correctly. And so if I open it up, this is the painting. I don't always like the direction that I took with it. Like this one, I don't really like. But that was something. That's what we did with this one. Very dark. But yeah, typically I do about 8 or 6 to 9. I think typically my layout has 9 on it, and so I don't normally go more than that. But yeah. Nice. I usually only lurk, but I've been doing backgrounds along with your stream lately. Aw, they're super relaxing to practice. Oh, that makes me happy to hear. Well, if you ever want to show anything, you're more than welcome to. I'd love to see what you do while you're working along. Ooh, what if this is like a floating island thing, but you have this dark cavern? Almost like teeth, like a cave, kinda. I don't know. Something. First comic episode has expanded from 4 to 8 pages now, I think. Ooh, that's nice, though. 8 pages, that's cool. Your first comic episode. I like that. I'm glad that you're still working on it. That's cool. I really like the idea that you're doing with it. Sort of the sitcom-y vibe. I really like that. Assuming that's the one that you're talking about. Okay, some floating island. Or floating castle, maybe. That looks like a character. It could be. I mean, it's not, but it could be. I'm trying to do like a floating, like a castle that's floating, but then underneath it'll be the part that's broken off. And so you get some of these like shapes back here. Like silhouettes of houses and things that have been built up. I think if I did three values, so like added another value in here, I could make this show a lot better. The only problem with the composition like this is that it ends up getting very split, and so it's hard. It's hard for it to read well. Because now you're like looking up here and down here, and it's like there's not one distinct thing. Does that make sense? So it's kind of weird. I've actually done stuff like this before, and I've never found a great way to do it. But yeah, and like this could be buildings or something down here. Maybe there's a little light. And then these could also be buildings. I don't know. Not sure I like that. It's kind of fun, though. Yeah. I don't know. Let's try another one. We could also here. Let's actually put some color on some of these. Maybe we'll call these good for now, and maybe I'll do one more. I'll clean this here. These two can go away because they're nothing. And then maybe I'll add some color onto these existing ones. So maybe I'll start with like a warm and cool. So here, what we can do like a warm or like a cool blue. And like a warm, just something really, really simple. Literally yellow and Actually, we could probably do that for most of them. Uh-oh, this one. Didn't we have something else going? No, no, there's this one. Some yellow in here. And then maybe also some nice blue. This one, I was thinking more like snowy scene. So maybe it's very bright. And this one, I don't know what it is. Maybe we'll go dark, deep green. With like a nighttime scene or something. And so we'll go like a blue light. But again, it still has to be light. Wait, am I on one? No. What's going on there? Something like that. Let me get some moonlight in there. And yeah, I'm trying to keep these very, very light. I'm not trying to go heavy on the color. This one, though, maybe we go a little heavier on the color. That way we can know that this is a sky we're looking against. Get that blue light in there. But also like an orange or something for the lighting. And then maybe some of that light is down there. I think a painting like this would be fun for like lore-wise, where you can kind of build out a world where like the top, kind of like in Arcane, where the top of the world is like rich and fancy, and then you have the Undercity kind of. That's sort of dark, it's, you know, it's shrouded in darkness, and it's a little bit more grimy and grungy, and so, you know, you have this like, they're sort of connected in a way, but they're sort of stacked on top of each other. Gives me that kind of lore a little bit. Okay, what do I want to do with this one? I don't know. Compared to the one I posted earlier, I just feel this one is meh. I like it. I'm hoping to publish your first page in the next week or so. I have like 8 pages done across 2 episodes. That's super cool though, Vegas. I like the facial expressions. Face expressions are hard. And I think you did a good job. Okay, what do I want to do here? Maybe we do like some... Maybe I'm just going to ignore what I have already and just jump straight into like some red and greenish colors. Some warm cool. A little bit more gray cool color down here. Maybe some blues. Gotta think what I want to do with these. I'm actually really liking the thumbnails so far today. Especially this one. Very Winter Wonderlandy. I think it has a nice feel to it. I don't know. I think it's nice. And of course, if I start painting in, I think I want to add like snow, but that snow is going to be in like, if here's the shadow, right, I can still put it in there. So I can brighten things up a lot, but I'm going to want to maintain that light and dark. Okay. Let's do this. Wait, I am always curious what everybody's working on. I get so inspired seeing everybody share stuff. And also they're good ideas for me to steal. Just kidding. I don't do that. Or do I? No, there's definitely been times people have posted things and I'm like, wow, I love those colors. And then I immediately want to do a painting with those colors. And so I totally like use their color palette for my own painting. That's absolutely been a thing I've done a fair amount on stream. But I do normally stick to like the subject matter that I want to paint. I don't typically yoink those things. Ooh, this one feels like an elven city. Uh-oh. Low disk space. Thanks, Windows. Let's close that. Oh, this is the thing I did last stream, if anybody was curious. This is what I was working on last stream. We did a dragon. This painting went through a bunch of changes. And then I think I'm going to continue it. I'll probably rework the dragon a bit. I also don't like this part of the composition. You don't do characters or sci-fi stuff often enough to truly steal my stuff. Yeah, no, I don't. Normally I paint the things I want to paint, but I might be inspired by like color palettes or even composition things. You know, if somebody does like a really cool 3-point perspective looking downward scene, I might be like, oh wow, I want to paint a scene where we have this camera angle, right? But I don't know. I just like to paint the subject matter that I like to paint, or the stories I want to paint, like whatever it is. Or, you know, give myself a little design challenge. Like, I don't typically see, like, a pre-existing design and be like, I want to paint that exact thing. That's very rare. I think that happens, the closest I think that happens is, like, if I'm reading a book, where I'll read a scene, and, like, there's still a lot of work to be done, but like they describe it in a way where it's more of like how it feels or something. And so I kind of want to like, ooh, I want to paint that scene maybe. And they've described it a certain way, but like it's not all, it doesn't exist in visual form anywhere, right? It's purely just the description of it. That to me is quite a bit of fun because that is still a design challenge. But yeah, that's probably the closest I get to doing that, is more like fan art of a book or something. I don't know. It really depends. I guess there are times where I'll see other people's art and they'll use like a compositional thing or a trick or whatever you want to call it. Like, or maybe a certain pattern. They use a lot of circles or something. I'm like, oh, what if I did a bunch of circles too? That could be a fun thing to try. But then I'll still apply it to the thing that I want to paint. So I don't know. Kind of depends. I haven't. I should start it on the 18th. I think I get my next Audible credit on the 17th. So whatever the Tuesday, probably the Tuesday after that. So the 17th is a Wednesday. I'll probably start it on that Friday. So like the 19th. So my guess is by the 20th I'll have started it. But no, right now I'm reading a book called All the Skills. It's a actually, I'm technically on the 3rd book now. But it's like a lit RPG progression fantasy book. It's quite fun. But yeah, I probably will buy Project Hail Mary next. That'll be my next book. I tried He Who Fights Monsters a week ago, but couldn't finish. It just felt annoying to me. Yeah, I didn't really like the tone of that book. I thought yeah, I read the first one, but it definitely was not a book that kept me interested. Yeah, that wasn't one of my favorites. But that's very much in line with the genre book. Although that particular book was not my favorite. But yeah, that's definitely progression fantasy. And I also think those books are best read from Audible. I think reading with eyeball reading of those books I don't think is as good. I feel like that kind of progression fantasy just feels best listened to, because like when they're doing the stats and stuff, it feels like they're, I don't know, somehow to me it makes more sense to like have system messages and stuff in a book when it's being read. I don't know. But I can also see it being kind of annoying for some people. Then I started something called Cyber Vikings. I think I ended up being half sci-fi, post-apocalyptic, meets romance, sex novel or something. I couldn't finish it because it was just not my thing. That's funny. I've never heard of that book. Cyber Vikings. Yeah, I will say I do like a lot of random, like when it comes to books, especially audiobooks, I don't need it to be the most like well-written thing. I'm pretty okay with basically like, I don't know, like as long as the idea's cool and the characters are fun, I don't need the best dialogue or any of that. Like it can be pretty cheesy and I can still really enjoy it. Um, I find that I can pretty much enjoy anything if there's some, I don't always finish everything I start, but yeah. Also, what am I painting here? I quite like it, whatever it is. I quite like these colors. Some trees sticking up in the foreground. Like we're looking out over a... I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what we're looking at. This feels like we're looking out like over a... Maybe there's a hill here? I don't know. We could do that. Let's try that. It's like an old... I don't know, old... not cyberpunk, not steampunk, but like an old... I don't know, it feels like a copper building. Like an old train station or something. Three CDF. 3CDF. What's that? What is 3CDF? Also, hi, Roy. Again. Looks like a monastery. Okay. I like that. A monastery. That's fun. Also, hi Hornstaff or Hornspan. Why did I read that as staff? Hornspan. Hornspan01. Hope you're doing well. It does have a little bit of monastery vibes. Maybe we can do like a little thingy on top. Little pointy bits sticking on top. Okay, now down here, what do I want to do in the foreground? I still don't know if I want to do like maybe we'll do trees growing up here, but they'll like this thing is just to make it really massive. Now it looks like 7COF, 7CDF on your image. Oh, you mean this? Did I write something that looks like 7OF? Is that what you're saying? Oh, you're saying that it, oh, I see. No, oh, I was just making shapes here. Like, this was going to be the underside of the window. I didn't even see that one. But I was making, like, shadows. Oh, I see. He's on to my secret codes. Yeah, no secret codes here. That was just me making shapes. That's funny. I'm trying to do, like, a mountainside or something here. And then maybe there's these like ridges that stick up. So it can be a little darker maybe. Some trees. The big tree in the foreground here. And then back here, maybe we have other shapes. Yeah, I'm glad other people knew what you were talking about. I didn't even notice it. When typically I don't see stuff like that in my own art, which is why when people point it out, I always am so quick to delete it because like I don't actually want that in my art. Like when people see things that I didn't intend, my initial question is always like, did I intend that? Can't even choose a name. Says OMG, these look so good. Oh, thanks. I'm pretty happy with this one. I like the colors. The colors are fun. Some of these are okay. This one's kind of fun. This was a 5-minute thumbnail I did. Obviously, it's very loose and blobby, but that's what I get for 5 minutes. This one's pretty much nothing. This one I think has potential. Like rocks here. But yeah, I appreciate it. Can't even choose a name. Yeah, some rocks here. Maybe this is a little bit grayer. Not as bright. And then we have like a character maybe back here. Maybe we have some like birch trees or something. And then we have our character standing here. Maybe in a green or something. You love the angle and composition of 6. Thanks. Yeah, this one is a little weird. This one was gonna be like a floating, like a cracked mountain or something, but like the bottom side is. This one I don't like as much because it's hard. It's hard to make the top and the bottom both be interesting and not like split the eye. It's really weird to have like a layered composition like this. It's something that I sometimes accidentally do when I'm never happy with it in the end. I think it's fine to have some, your eyes down here and guide them up the page, but it's just having things stacked directly on top of each other feels weird. I think maybe if I shifted it a little and like, a focal point over here, and then maybe work our way up over here. There are ways to do it, but it's just not as easy. Horns fan says, do you ever struggle justifying time spent on your art? I don't think so. I enjoy mini painting, but frequently when I get close to starting, I find a chore I start working on instead of out of guilt. I mean, there's definitely times, like, I will kick the can down the road when it comes to painting. Like, if I'm not streaming, there will be days where I just won't paint because I'm doing other things. Not necessarily out of guilt, but just, like, sometimes painting is hard to start. And so, sometimes I want to paint, but I don't. But even when I do want to paint, I don't typically feel like I'm wasting time. In fact, I'm almost the opposite. Even if I paint for 4 hours and then delete the file after, not that I actually do that, but if I were to do that, like, for example, if I share my screen here for a second, this other screen, I should say. Let me just change this. Let me turn off my webcam here, or hide this thing. Okay. If I open up my files here, I have tons of paintings that I will never post anywhere. I have, hundreds and hundreds more than this. I have like 600 of these folders, and in each folder there is a thumbnail of, maybe 6 paintings. Most of these will never be posted anywhere. And I don't feel like, oh, I wasted my time because this never turned into anything. I don't really feel that. I like this time spent, and I value it in some ways. It's sort of... Yeah, I'm closer to you, Vegas. I feel guilty when I'm not painting. I feel like I'm, I'm playing a video game when I could be making art. But even when the art doesn't turn out good, right? Or even when I never post it, or it's just a means to an end. I have, when people say, like, focus on the process, I am so far in that camp, I think, that I don't even care if I make stuff that turns out good. I do a little bit on stream because I like to have something to share because, like, I'm streaming to an audience. But yeah, I have loads of it. So I don't... But no, yeah, normally it's like I want to do this, but I don't because I end up doing other things. But But no, I don't feel like the time spent, little dude fishing. I don't typically feel like the time spent is a waste, if that's what you mean. Because, but I'm curious for those who do feel that. Now I'm just gonna ask my own questions. Do you only feel like the time you're spent wasting, or the time spent on art is a waste if nothing comes of it, or do you just feel like any time spent on art is a waste? Because to me the answer matters a lot, because like I think if you feel like any time spent at all is a waste, like maybe you just need more examples of why art is a good thing, you know? Like, but if you feel that the art's only a waste of time if it's looking bad, that feels like it's more, you know, you're focused more on the outcome than the process, kind of. If the art ends up looking bad, I feel like I wait. Yeah, I mean, I can relate closer to that one, but I've gotten pretty good, right? I would say quite good, if I do say so myself, not to brag, but I think I've gotten pretty good at like not caring if the art turns out like crap. Obviously, I don't want it to, but I'm more focused on sort of the step by step. I'm more focused on, you know, what am I trying to problem solve? That way, it's like, did I solve a problem? Did I do a thing that I set out to do? And the thing that I set out to do is never make good art. It's always some other thing. It's like, I want to practice drawing in a certain perspective, or I want to use a color palette and explore. And it's like, oh, well, I did that. I explored it. I played around with it, right? Don't you post them on on daily blog instead of Blue Sky or X? Blog can be categorized chronically. No, I don't post them at all. I mean, sometimes I do post them on Blue Sky or X, but typically that's only the final, or not the final, but like the thing that I did for that day. Doesn't have to be like a finished piece. But you know, like if, for example, if I end up working on this painting for the next 2 hours, I might put this painting on Blue Sky or X, but like not very few even makes it to my Instagram. I don't know. I think at a certain point, because most of my art is stuff I'll never post, I don't feel bad about making one more piece that I'll never post. Like, I still post a lot of art because I make a lot of art, right? So like, there's this I forgot who said it. I think it was, I don't know, somebody on a podcast once who makes art. Anyway, also, my music is really loud. It's loud for me. I don't know if it's loud for you, but I'm gonna turn down the volume a bit. 1 second. Okay. But this person said once is like, you know, if you make one bad painting and that's all you make for like, let's say a year, it can feel like a major waste of time, right? But if you make, you know, like 365, right, pieces of art a year, like, who cares if you made 20 bad paintings, right? Like, if that means that the other 300 are good, you know, if you only made one bad piece of art a year, that's gonna feel crappy. But what if you made, I don't know, 200 or 300, right? That's still 600 that you are proud of. Or 660 that you're proud of. What if you made 360 bad pieces of art a year? That's still leaving 5 that you're happy with. That's pretty good, realistically. Like, that's like, you know, maybe if you're making 12 that you're proud of a year, you know, that still could be 1 a month, right? That's not terrible. You're getting into numbers where, like, you're actually cranking out some good stuff. And so I don't really feel bad about the 300 pieces that I make that suck. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all, because I do feel like I make enough that I am happy with, you know, and I also see my progression. And I think also I feel it when I learn. Like, it's not, and I mentioned this a couple streams ago, and I don't know if I fully agree with it with myself, but it was more of like a thought that I was having. And I'm still kind of playing around with the idea, but it's like, I don't think I need to make art. Like, I think a lot of times my art is more like, sorry, let me back up. I don't think my art, or gosh, how do I word this? Like, let's say you make art and you make the best piece of art you ever made. I think some people would look at that and be like, wow, I've improved. I think you've improved before you made the art. Very rarely do I learn the thing that I'm trying to learn while I'm making the art. To me, the art feels more like sort of proof that I've learned it, but like I feel it when I learn it by just learning something new. If I look at a plant and I'm like, "Oh, I've never noticed that before." That's something new that I could paint that I couldn't have painted yesterday, right? Like I just learning a new bit of information for me is enough. And so I'm not really judging my progress by the art I make. It's more about like the things I learn along the way, to make it sound really cheesy. I don't know. Um I don't know if I articulated that very well. But yeah, I don't know. To me, the outcome of the art it is very rarely something that I get. I think the only time I'd get really upset if the art turned out crappy is if like it was for a client or something and I felt like I'm letting them down, then it would suck because they are obviously outcome oriented, whereas I'm not, and so I have to care about the outcome if it's for a commission or something, or but if it's just for myself, typically there's other goals, right? It's not just make good art. It's typically like, let's explore an idea. Let's do something different than I've done before. And even just trying something different than I've done before, even if it fails, it still feels kind of like a success. Oh, can I show the dragon one? Yeah. Probably best to put that on the screen while I'm yapping away anyway. You learn with every illustration. Yeah, I mean, I think you... Yeah, I think as long... I mean, I think it depends. Again, I think if you're doing like purely client work where you are purely focused on the outcome, it might be the case that you don't learn anything because you're just kind of making sure it works. But when I'm painting for myself, there's always some other goal in mind. Like, you know, I'm almost never painting the thing that I've painted before. It's always some like slight variation on a thing. You know, I'm changing like something that something that I'm notoriously bad at is painting bright objects. So like, because oftentimes when I lay out my scene, I will take like a dark object and silhouette it against the light sky. So it might look something like this, right? Like here's a castle or whatever, right? And I'll paint a castle, you know, I'll paint the, you know, and so, but I'll set up my painting like this. Well, the problem is that this oftentimes is represented as like a darker material. I'm not very good at making things look like they are super bright and like white shiny material. Like I can pull it off, but you know, like a bright material, like, you know, maybe here's the sun, but then the rest of the thing is still quite bright relative to it. You know, I don't paint a lot of super bright materials because I typically am setting my painting up a certain way. So I might do a painting that's very similar to something I've painted before, but I'm just going to make it like the materials dark or lighter, right? That's a challenge for me. And so just doing that, it might, you know, to everyone else, it might be like, hey, you just painted the same subject matter, the same composition, the same whatever, everything's the same. But to me, it was like, oh no, I really stretched my muscles, right? Or I really built them up that time because I was trying a new thing. And so in that case, it doesn't matter if it turns out good because it was the attempt that was, you know, it was that practice of doing the thing. And that's exciting to me. I like trying the new things. It's at least, again, it has to be a little bit. Also, this painting is not totally finished. It has its issues compositionally. It's not perfect, but whatever. It is what it is. It came out nice. That dragon you posted the other day, though, Drifzilla, was pretty spectacular. Oh, Drifzilla's. Yeah. I get bothered with the shitty stuff when nothing good comes out for a few days. Yeah, I think that can be tough. Then I really question what I am doing, and I sink into crisis. This is where I think learning to pivot and change your perspective is super useful. Like, I think it's fine to start with, I'm going to make an awesome I'm going to make a 3-part painting series, and you get to painting number 2 and it just, everything starts sucking and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. And then the magic trick is when you can pivot and you say, you know what? I wasn't actually painting a series. I'm just doing a practice for my next series. It's like you turn it into an exercise, you turn it into a thing where like you can still be happy with the time spent even if it isn't great. Like you basically, I always just fall back on study, and so it's like if I'm trying to paint something for myself and it doesn't turn out very good, I'm like, oh well, it was a means to an end, or oh, it was a good experience to learn how to paint a thing, or it was I feel like that's sort of self-brainwashing. Well, I think yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But no, not really, not really. So the reason I think it's not is because I typically have those goals anyway, and it's more of a reminder. So like, let's say I'm making a personal project and it's not turning out the way I want. It's not like I didn't also have the goal of improving. And it's instead of being all, and it's not like I'm going to then stop and be like, oh, I guess I'm not doing that other thing anymore. But like, it's a way of sort of stepping back and reminding myself that like, oh, I actually have other goals too. And I don't need to beat myself up for it not turning out perfect on the first try, because a lot of times you need to make a series of work before you get there. And like, oh, but also maybe I need to learn more. And so this can be a study and it can be a stepping stone. I don't think it's self-brainwashing because the other reasons aren't wrong, right? If you did a lot of exploration as a means to an end, you did explore stuff, you did learn stuff, you were trying things along the way. You might have also wanted it to be awesome, and maybe it didn't turn out awesome. It's not brainwashing to say, well, maybe that's not, But I mean, I think obviously I was kind of I was exaggerating when I was like, I wasn't really doing that in the first place. Like that, okay, that might be it if you go that hard. But really, it's more of just pivoting and focusing differently on one goal than the other, right? I mean, it's very similar to like when you're painting a part of your painting, you're like, I can't seem to get this part right. Maybe I'll focus over here for a bit, right? And maybe as you work on this, you're like, oh, this is actually the thing that is most interesting now in the painting. What if I just fiddle the painting and like make this thing the most interesting? Again, it's one thing if it's for a client, you can't really do that. But sometimes you can just shift a little bit and pivot. And obviously sometimes you want to push through the hard stuff and do the thing that you were struggling with. That's useful too. But sometimes just getting anything you can get out of it and to not feel terrible about yourself. I don't know. Again, it's like drinking a disgusting like health drink. And instead of saying, oh, it's so terrible, it's disgusting, why did I do that? You're like, oh, actually, it does taste terrible, and I thought it was going to taste good, but at least it's healthy, and like I'm getting something useful out of it. I don't know. That's how I am. So it's not so much. So I don't think it's like self-brainwashing, but I mean, there is like some truth to that, right? You are sort of, it's a little bit of a mental trick to like not spiral out of control into a depression. At least for me, it's sort of a way to keep focusing on something, on the stuff that you're getting out of it, rather than focusing on what you're not getting out of it. I think it was the way you were. Yeah. I can see that. I probably was a little heavy-handed with the way I expressed it at first. No, I'm not actually trying to gaslight myself when I say, like, oh, I wasn't actually trying to make something nice at all. Like, no, it's more like, well, at least I learned something instead of, so it wasn't a waste of time, right? Because I think some people jump straight to, like, oh, I just spent 3 hours painting this garbage. What a waste of time. What am I even doing? Right? Like, that kind of talk. And I think that's terrible. Like, no, you just spent 3 hours learning stuff. Maybe learning what not to do. Maybe you got there's probably something you got from it. And to me, I'd rather just focus on that rather than like beat myself up endlessly because I didn't have these, I didn't meet some unrealistic goals in the first place. which I guess after a while you just learn to stop setting like crazy lofty goals, and you start just getting better at goal setting. And so now you go in with a more level head. You're not, you're not these wild emotional straight swings from like, I'm gonna make the greatest art ever to I made the worst art ever. You're not doing these crazy swings from highs to lows. It's more you just go in with a level head, say, I'm just gonna paint. I'm gonna have, I'm gonna make the best of it. And if I'm gonna try to make good stuff, but if it doesn't turn out, so be it. And also maybe it will turn out really well. And I find that if you go in with a level head like that, you end up making better art anyway, because then you're focused on the process, right? Like maybe that's synonymous to me, is like focus on the process and go in with a level head around your expectations, right? I think if you think that this is going to be the best thing ever, which is obviously extreme, that's not focusing on the process, and it's also not going with the level head, right? And I think just being realistic about your expectations, having enough experience to know what realistic expectations are, and so you can just be a little bit more mellow about it, and it doesn't really matter if it doesn't turn out great, because you already knew that was a possibility, and like that was kind of that's what you signed up for, right? I think that to me is a lot of it. Is just do enough art to where you know what your expectations are, and don't get them all out of control, or don't have them out of whack. That's how I deal with it, I guess. Pivot, yeah. Or just make smaller goals and get a bit of momentum. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think a lot of it, Driftzilla, is setting smaller goals, right? It's learning. It's also just learning what a realistic goal is in the first place. It's not even smaller goals. It's just more realistic goals, right? Instead of saying, I want to do the entire block out for an entire comic in one day, you have learned that like, oh, well, that's not a realistic thing. I'm not, that's not, maybe that's what some people do, but that's not how I work. And knowing how you work by just having done it a lot, you become more understanding and lenient to yourself, and you basically, yeah, you're just nicer to yourself, I feel like, because you know more about yourself. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. That's it. That's the only rant we're gonna do. I think my main frustration when I'm working on my comic, because I actually have things I want to express. Yeah, I mean, but I think you can still do that, right? That's what, like, it's not. I mean, I guess with the way that I expressed it earlier with like pivoting, I'm not saying like you just abandon your goals. Like you can still work towards them, but I think the more that you work on art in general, the more you realize what kinds of goals are achievable. And maybe instead of saying I'm going to do a full page and get it correctly, maybe you just do like a composition thing in one day, or maybe you just you do a bunch of character expressions so that you have them sort of in your back pocket for next time you need a bunch, right? Rather than trying to do the whole drawing in one day, you do a part of it, or you focus on different things, or maybe like it can be a longer process than like I need to succeed right away. And like as long as you're making some progress, and again, I think it's easy, or maybe not easy, but I think it's fairly simple to find a way in which you are making progress, right? If you draw a painting or draw a comic panel and it doesn't turn out the way you want, there's going to be something about that isn't correct, right? Maybe it's your composition, maybe it's your story's not fleshed out, whatever it is, right? And so in theory, if just identifying the part of the thing that you need to work on is progress, right? And then of course, if you did like a study, or you did maybe a few extra sketches where you focus on that weak aspect, maybe you do a few extra compositions next time before you jump in, and really make sure that your composition's correct, because maybe it wasn't working that first time. Even if you just did 20 compositions, you're making progress compared to the last time where you spent all this time and your composition failed and then you beat yourself up. Like now your process includes more composition planning, right? Like you're learning from your previous mistakes and being more reasonable with your expectations, having a more methodical process to sort out those kinks. I don't know, to me it just feels like I mean, it is kind of what Drusilla said, right? It's making smaller goals, but it's not just smaller though. I think it's just more realistic. You just learn what the pitfalls are. I don't know. That's how I think about it. But yeah, I will admit what I do on stream a lot of the times though is not you know, I'm not setting even big goals at all for myself. Like my goals are so small on stream, like even for myself they're small. So there is very little, like, yeah. So I do understand that when you have like very defined goals or an outcome, it puts more pressure on you. You never... No, but I think you do, though. I mean, maybe you don't get anything done when you do that, but I don't know. I feel like I do. I found it... I work better to just keep going forward if a page or two of my comic looked kind of crappy. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's also a thing, right? I mean, I think what you just said, though, is totally in line with what I'm saying. If you say just keep going forward if a page or two of my comic looks crappy, at least I'm getting stuff done. Yeah, learning to, like, settle for something just, you know, right... Done is good enough, or whatever that saying is. Like, learning to set your expectations more realistic, that's part of it. Just being like, yeah, it's good enough. That's fine too. I mean, settling is okay. Again, maybe that's not settling in like a bad way, but just like, yeah, learning to move forward. And the next time you paint, you can figure out what you struggled with and maybe try to not do it next time. And maybe you will. And then you're like, oh, that sucks for me. Guess I gotta move forward. Like, there's a lot of solutions to it. And I think that's exactly kind of what I'm saying, is like, you're not dwelling on the bad outcome. You're not beating yourself over the head because you made a bad painting. You know, you just, yeah, you move on. Maybe you do start over, though. Maybe you start over. Maybe you don't. It does, you know, again, there's no one perfect solution. The idea is that you're pivoting. You know, you had expectations that were, you know, that were up here. You feel like you fell short. You know, maybe you only got to here, right? And you're like, you know what? That's good enough, and then you move on, right? That's what I'm saying. So then you learn to stop shooting for that, and now you're like, you know, I'm just going to do the best I can do each time, and sometimes I will get up there, but maybe next time I don't, and that'll be okay too, right? And so this is a pivot, right? You shot up here, you landed here, and you said, you know what? That's good enough. Let's move on. That's exactly what I'm saying. You found a way to pivot your goal and not let it beat you up. You know, you didn't let it get to you. You just moved on to the next thing. That's perfect. You know, along the way, though, you evaluate what went wrong, and then you try to apply it to your next painting, and so on and so forth, until you have a whole bunch of work. And guess what? Some of that work is going to be really dang good. And you're like, look, this is the good stuff. And then you actually met your goal in the long run anyway. And that's where this is the process, and your process led you to the goal eventually. But it just, you added more steps in there. Instead of relying on the first thing to be amazing, you said, you know what? Let's just keep going forward. So I feel like you just described what I'm trying to express. You probably described it better than I was expressing it. Your issue before was I felt like I was doing nothing but studying, which is still somehow, but not actually completing. Yeah, no, I don't think just studying is... Yeah, no, I think that getting stuck in like that study hell, or whatever you want to call it, that's not good either. I mean, unless you're genuinely enjoying it, and some people like doing that, and I kind of, you know, I don't mind it. And I guess you could argue what I'm doing is kind of that, although not really, because I don't think of this as studying. But yeah, I kind of get it. Yeah, I think that there is a lot of advice, like, oh, I mean, I don't know, I think it all needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because sometimes you shoot really high. I don't know, this is where I feel like each painting is more of like a... Well, maybe not like a benchmark, but in some ways paintings are like benchmarks of like what you could do in theory, but like if you're trying something and it's not working out, there is a point I think where it's useful to like, okay, again, not every time. Sometimes you just move on and like, try to apply it to the next painting. But if if you try it like 4 paintings in a row, and every single painting that you try to draw, a character, your proportions are terrible, I think it's okay to be like, you know what, maybe I should brush up on my proportions. Maybe I should just, bite the bullet, do a page of character proportion studies, and then I'll go back to my own work, right? I'll just insert that little study thing in there. I think that's fine too. But I think if all you ever do is studies because you always can point to something that you're not good at, and you never actually get to painting the thing you want to paint, that's not good either, right? I think in theory, you need to do both. You need to draw the thing that you're good at, or that, not that you're good at. You need to draw the things that you want to draw. And if you want to continue improving, like if you find that you're not meeting your marks, there is this other option you have, which is doing drills, basically, right? But no, I think immediately jumping into, oh, this thing is, I struggle at this, oh, I've got to do my drills, like, I don't think that's true either. Like, drills are fine, but they're not the only way to get better. You can also just, like, keep moving forward, keep trying stuff, keep learning, keep having fun. So yeah, I don't think there's a perfect way to do art or get better at it. It also depends on what your goals are. I mean, I think pretty much any skill can be broken down so, like, minutely to the point where you could, there will be a point where, like, a character artist will do like an elbow joint study, Do you need to do an elbow joint study? Probably not. Probably almost nobody does. But like, you could take it that far to where you're studying every single muscle and every joint individually and like really, really getting minute in it. And I don't think that's that useful for most people. But, there are probably some people who are so far along in their art career that like, they are just really trying to like get down to the nitty gritty because it's that's the thing that they need to do at that moment. But yeah, I think for most people, that is not the thing that they need to be doing, right? You don't need to be like, I need to do my elbow studies. Well, no, probably just keep making art, keep moving forward, kind of like you mentioned, stop striving for perfection and just make it something. That's probably pretty good for most people, in my opinion. Drefzilla says, yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, but that's also because with more knowledge and skill, the expectations get bigger. As a beginner, it's a huge milestone to maybe draw a nice portrait from imagination, but then you study posture and anatomy, and you want to make whole characters and they be good unless you realize very little about clothing and costumes and so on. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny though, because in some ways I was just saying like you learn to temper your expectations, or not temper. Again, I think it's your expectations get more realistic, but I also think as you grow, the overall like I mean, again, as your skill grows, your expectations get higher, but they're also more realistic, right? I think the better you get, they're not lower, right? They're higher because your skill level's higher, right? Like you said, if you're doing character, now you care about the design of the clothing, the costume design being good, and the gesture needs to be good, and the anatomy needs to be good, and you also care about the mood and the lighting and the composition, and like you care about all these new things that you didn't care about before. But also because you're better, those things are actually also more achievable. And so, yes, you might be a little bit harder on yourself in some ways, but I also think you learn to sort of take those, like, even when you learn that even when you make sort of your bad painting, that it's still good enough, right? And I think, not always, but I mean, obviously some artists will always struggle with this, but I think you typically do. Yeah. doing one, but yeah, and I mentioned this to Joe before, but I think part of my issue was I got so good good at programming that when I tried to shift gears to a couple years ago, being a complete noob at something felt like that was really hard to get through. I've gotten over that now, but it took a couple of years to break through that barrier. Yeah, I could see that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people who talk about like having a beginner's mindset, and I think with art, you really do just learn that you are always sucky at it. There's always like I don't think I mean yes there are gonna be skills in art that you like oh I've got this and again you learn to set your expectations more realistically. But there's always gonna be these obvious things you don't know, right? And you kind of just start to learn that like you're kind of a noob at everything except for the stuff that you're not a noob at, and that's most things. So you're a noob at sorry I meant to say that you're a noob at most things when it comes to art. Even people who are really good at art are probably sucky at most things in art. Right? Now they have the skills to do it, right? They have the skills to sort of self-teach and learn and build it up and like they have that they know that the way to learn, right? Because that's what you get really good at in art, I think, is learning how to learn new art skills. But yeah, I mean, you sort of, I think you in some ways living your life as a beginner. You're constantly. That's why you see professionals sign up for workshops, right? You see professional artists saying, "Oh, I'm going to a workshop for this thing or that thing. I'm gonna go do a watercolor workshop, or I'm gonna do a character design class," and they're like already in professionals in the industry, and it's like, why are you doing these things? You're already a pro. It's like, yes, but that's how you keep learning. And so I think that sort of beginner mindset of like I think you'd be hard pressed. I mean, I know there are obviously some artists with giant egos, and I've actually heard a few where they're like, I've pretty much learned everything there is to know about image design, so I've decided to move on to music. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. That just feels like I don't know. Like I feel like with art, nobody reasonable talks like that. It's almost always like there's just so much out there. There's so many things I don't know that whether it's styles or design type things like do you know what the 700s Mesoamerican stuff looks like? Probably not. And like go study that. Go study cultural trends. Go study history. Go study whatever. Right? Like there's so many things that exist that you clearly don't know everything. Just learning about those things will and there's always going to be research into what materials did these people use in their flooring and this kind of what inspired this type of design that they used. Like there's always going to be stuff to learn that can help you design and tell stories better, and so there's always going to be stuff that you don't know. I feel like that's like when your job is a communicator, how can you possibly have known everything like right? It's kind of like saying I'm a writer, I've written everything. No, you haven't. Like you might be good at writing, but so much of writing, especially if you're doing like nonfiction writing, is doing research, right? I mean, I think it was probably like Malcolm Gladwell or someone. It's this story is like you hear it time and time again where an author who writes nonfiction will be like, I started this project researching one thing, but by the time I ended, because I didn't know everything about what I was researching, I actually the story or that their book changes as they're writing it because they didn't they were discovering new things daily. And so there's maybe a thing that you think is interesting, but it gets so much more crazy than you thought it would be because you just didn't know when you started. How could you? Right? And so to me that's kind of the same with painting or really any sort of communication, right? It's like, oh, I want to learn about this thing. Well, yeah, you're going to feel like you're an idiot at the start because you are. You don't know anything about the subject matter. You've never done exactly that thing before. Like there's always going to be new stuff, So I think in that sense, kind of accepting the fact that we suck. We don't know much. Little character in green here. Hobby 100% completion speedrun. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I could see it being demoralizing to like, oh crap, I'm not at the, especially like as a social status thing, right? I think that's probably another thing. I don't know if that's the thing for you, Vegas. But I imagine if you're at like, even if you're at the top of your field and still treating things as like a beginner, so you might still have a beginner mindset, but there might be a certain amount of like respect to your from your peers because you're a veteran in your industry. You know, you've been doing it a long time. People kind of acknowledge you as being very good, and then you go to a thing you're actually a beginner at, even if you're used to like, the same process for learning, but there's sort of like the social aspect where like you're kind of a nobody, right? And it's like, oh, now you've got to rebuild this sort of thing. And it's not just, for me, it's not just a skill thing. Like, I would feel different, even though I might feel like I'm a total noob if I try character art. I think it would be very different than if I were to go and do, like, I don't know, scuba diving, where, like, I don't, yes, I'm a beginner in both, maybe, but in one, like, I'm more than a beginner, kind of. Like, I don't know. I think there's differences in like one, you're a beginner in a, you might feel like a beginner in a thing that you're kind of already established in. Like, so it's more of like a, I don't know, like they're different categories of being a beginner, I feel like. And I'm not really a beginner for drawing characters, but you know what I mean. It's sort of, it might feel like it. Also, let's pick one of these paintings to work on. I've been ranting, but which one should I work on till the end of stream? I'll let you guys vote. From 1 to 6. I'll make a straw poll. I'm making a straw poll right now. Don't mind me. Create a poll. Vote is the name of the straw poll with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 options. Multiple options per person. Yes. Create a poll. There we go. That should be the straw poll. I posted it twice. You can vote on which one you'd like me to work on. I will also pin it to the top of chat. You want to know more about the fella in 4? I think they're just a dude in snow clothing. Or a girl in snow clothing. I don't know. A person. Just a person. I haven't thought much about them, to be honest. Just a little character. Just chilling. Probably in the snow. So maybe they're probably going to be bundled up. Maybe there's like snow mushrooms or snow flowers they're picking. I don't know. Failed to save. No disk space. Great. Fantastic. Snow mushrooms. Yeah, I don't even know if that's a real thing, but it sounds like it could be. Closing all my tabs. It's actually a good point. Learning to draw has been more stressful than learning a different area in programming. Yeah, because I think there's always something you can fall back on. Like if you're trying to learn to program Vegas and you start struggling something, there's sort of this like comfort, like, well, at least I know my main area of programming. This main thing that I'm already kind of good at. And again, it's not that you're going to fall back on it, but it gets you through those hard times a little easier because like you're still in the same domain and it's like your identity hasn't crumpled. Whereas if you try to, if you've never painted before and you try to paint, by all means, like in your own head, you might say, I'm a failed painter, right? But if you try something new in programming and you fail, you're not a failed programmer because you are already a very professional programmer, right? And so like I mean, I think realistically it is no different. You are still a beginner in that area, but sort of identity wise, right? It's easier to pivot to something and not have your identity break. And I think that's similar to, like, I don't know, learning again. It's not. It's there might be a little bit of self gaslighting because like you're sort of finding a reason not to, like, for example, imagine you had a group of people, all you know, a group of 10 people or something, and they were all constantly learning new things. I don't think it would be as much of a toll on you if you were all learning something together and you guys were all sucking together, because in that group you're still like, you have a space, right? Like within that context, you're not a failure or whatever because you weren't viewing yourself as, you know, an artist or as whatever you're doing. You're viewing yourself as like a person in a group who does new things or something, right? Like you still have friends, you still, you know, you're not being judged by your peers, right? There isn't a, like, I don't know, I feel like it would be easier. Whereas if you jump into like a totally new group of people and the first time you do anything you fail, it's like, well, that sucks. You feel crappy. It's not fun. You know, the first impression that anyone had of you, like, I think there's a social element, at least for me. I think that, like, I truly do. I mean, I know it's, everyone says like, oh, don't, it shouldn't matter if other people, you know, what other people think. But I think the fact is it does. I think that's why taking classes at the community college has helped me, because while some of them were already really good, most of them weren't that much better. Yeah, and also like you've already sort of established that like this is a place to learn, right? There's sort of the accepted rules that like doing poorly comes with the territory, right? Like this is what we do in this room is we try things, we make mistakes, and we learn. Whereas if you're online, there's sort of this like, this is you being out in the world, and yes, you, I mean, this is, it's kind of the same thing I say on Twitch, right? Like obviously I want to learn and get better, but I think it's hard to learn when you're doing it online because you have the pressure of being seen, right? You have this pressure of what other people think. Whether or not you truly care about that, it's still kind of there in the background. There is an element of like I don't know, it's tricky. It's like, even if your stream is, you know, this is a study stream, there's still a little bit of a part of you that wants to like, I don't know, like not make bad art. And so yeah, I do think the right context and the right group of people and sort of the right the right environment, I think it matters. Okay, anyway, we are voting, by the way. I am gonna vote on one of these. Oh wait, was that already 5 minutes? What the heck? Okay, I'm gonna vote on number 5, maybe? 5 is fun. 1 is nice, kind of, although I don't really like the double buildings, but 4 is not bad. 3 could be fun. Okay, I'm gonna vote 1, 4, and 5, I think. Some people have voted! Thank you, those of you who have voted. 4 and 5 are currently tied. It's funny how the 5-minute thumbnail is the one that is winning. I mean, even just your self-image. Well, yeah, I mean, I think I think you could argue self-image, but I think there is. I think sometimes like when people are like, "Oh, don't worry about what other people think about you," like, on one hand that's true, but on the other hand there is a very real, like, if people actually view you differently, you will be treated differently. And so it's not just all in your head. It's not like a fake thing. Like being social and having other people think things of you, actually there is a very real element to it. And so yes, I think some people care too much about it, right? They care too much about being perfect, or like or they have one very specific idea of who they need to be in public, and like they aren't even allowed to like have fun because goofing off somehow seems beneath them. Like that's just sad, right? But I think there is an element of, yeah. Yeah, being human means being social. Yeah, but I mean, so it's tricky. I think there's an element that, like, sometimes you do things that you don't need to do because you think you do, and sometimes you're doing things because they have very real outcomes. And there's this sort of, it's tricky to tease them apart, I think. And I think when you're doing something online in front of other people and also for yourself, you sort of, the lines get a little bit blurred. Like, I want to both entertain and have a good time and also learn stuff. And sometimes learning stuff means making not good art, which might mean is less appealing for others, which means not as many people are here. And like, there's sort of these like weird. There's a lot of different. It's messy, I feel like. And sometimes I think just having your variables kind of laid out for you. This is a classroom that we focus on this particular topic on this particular day. Everybody's a beginner, right? You're all paying to be here. We all understand that we're gonna learn together and fail together and like learn new things as the class progresses. And then you're gonna get graded and you're gonna get homework, and like everybody's kind of on the same page. And so you don't have a lot of wiggle room for like all these conflicting goals and objectives at play. Like everybody's they're all kind of calibrated to the same thing, right? And I think that does make it a lot easier to fail and be a beginner because like everybody is, or most people are. Okay, so do we have a winner yet? Let's see. I'm gonna refresh. I don't think we do. I think number 4 and 5 are still tied. If anybody wants to break the tie, you're more than welcome to. There's the straw poll. Vegas was like, we'll say. Sometimes I had no freaking clue what he was saying though, because I'm like 20 plus years older than everybody else, and the slang constantly made me go WTF. Yeah, totally get it. I think it's funny though. I've never done a workshop one day. Yeah, I've never done a real workshop either. I'd like to. Okay, last call for voting if you want to swing the vote. Oh, we got a winner. 5. 5 is the winner. This is the one we did. This was the only one that took 5 minutes. We spent more time on all the others. It was the quick one. I stand by what I said, though. I think the reason that happens is because this one is just me relying on what I already know. Whereas these, I'm in some cases trying new things, or I set little mini goals for myself. Like, I knew this was going to be a challenge to pull off, and I don't think I pulled it off. And so, like, all of these, I did spend more time on it, but I feel like I got more out of it. Whereas this one, yes, it looked good, it looks okay, and it may have won the vote, but I also don't feel like I learned anything. I was just doing what I know. So this is that's like the tricky, this is like the tricky, I don't know. It's not tricky, what am I saying? It's a difficult thing for me to wrap my head around sometimes, because sometimes I've heard even people like give it art advice, like, oh, just try not to think too much about it. And I kind of get it. Like, if I just don't think too much about it, I'll end up with something like number 5, which ends up being my best painting today. But that also doesn't work if you're trying to actually, like, learn to make better art. The only reason I can shut my brain off and do something quick that looks okay is because I've done these other ones, right? And so I have a... Yeah. Just voted, just came in and saw the poll. I appreciate it. Yeah, we are gonna... Here, let me save this real quick. Save as... Make a JPEG. But yeah, welcome in, Time Dragon. Hope you're doing well. Have you ever dabbled into more graphic looking stylized art? Just graphic stylized art. I mean, I think so. I don't really know what you mean by that. I mean, typically my stuff starts very graphic, like very black and white, just literally shapes. Most of the time my art starts very graphical in some ways, right? and then as I go, I start doing things like adding more form and lighting and realistic stuff. Like I mean, do you just like what, like triangle for a character, house shape looks like how? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Um, sometimes my compositions are more to the rendering. Oh. Um, I mean, kind of. I don't know. I think for me it typically is more like what stage of the painting I'm at. There are times where I'll make like clean shapes and stuff, and the rendering will more or less be like simple shapes and like just clean gradients. Um, this white and blue one. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and then like today I was doing sort of, I was trying to focus on like more, especially with not this one or this one, but with these I was kind of doing like a, starting almost like a no tan type composition where like just the black and white, just the um, light and shadow kind of. And so in some ways I'd start graphically. Whether or not they end up looking like that, I don't know. I'm not really sure I distinguish those. If you're talking about like the end outcome, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's probably times. I mean, again, this is the end, right? I will never work on this one again. So this is finished. So yes, yeah. I don't know. It depends on how you're defining it. Like Scott Flanders. Okay, so just like a value sketches. I mean, yeah, I've done when I Google Scott Flanders, I'm just seeing black and white value stuff. But I mean, even that like has I mean, like I've definitely done block-ins. Oops, hold on. Let me open up PureRef for a second. Oh, like Scott Flanders maybe. Oh, I see. Druffzilla said that. Thank you for doing. Thank you. Doing okay. Just feeling a bit low on energy. How are you today? I'm doing pretty well. My nose is runny, so that's why I have my webcam off. Because I keep having to wipe my nose on a Kleenex, and I'm like all sniffly and stuff. So I just thought it would be best if I just don't have a webcam on. I don't know if I actually chatted much in here before. I'm usually a lurker type watcher. No worries. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. Let me just save my art real quick again. And then I will start. Uh-oh, it's not letting me save. Oh, you know why. Time-lapse was on. Whoopsie. Whoopsie-daisy. That would be why. Hope you get better. Yeah, I don't think I'm actually sick or anything. I don't know what it is. I didn't realize time-lapse was on for this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is make this larger. Goodbye, Snowfella. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I think for me, like I've done a lot of graphical stuff, like especially in the composition. I typically like to take it further though, but I don't know if that's like to me it's more about like what the focus is on, and there are definitely stages of painting for me that are very much on a graphical side of things. So in that sense, yes, I just normally continue it with the rendering a little bit. But like having a graphic composition, and that's very readable in sort of a black and white, visual way, something that works in black and white, that reads very graphical. That absolutely is a thing I care about. It may not be the only thing, and so there might be but like something like this, there will be stages where I the main focus is purely on, the black and white silhouette of this. Something like that, for example. Like, I don't, this kind of thing. I don't mind doing that. But typically it doesn't end there. It's funny because when you were looking at Jocelyn Carm's work, Joe, you said it's kind of graphical, and I have never seen it as that. Jocelyn Carn's work. I don't remember who that is. I know I'll see it when I look at it again. Oh yeah, super graphical compositions. Yeah. Like here, let me show you the literally first result on it. I mean, again, this is so I'm not talking about like end style. Again, I don't like talking about style because I think people kind of talk about style and art movement like synonymously, right? And so I'm more talking about like what is the focus of their work, right? What are their sort of underlying principles that very clearly they are focused on? And so when I take an image like that person, let me open up PureRef so I can show y'all. I know my screen is set to black and white right now. When I take an image like this person, without even knowing how they work for sure, I would bet money that they start in either black and white or they are very clearly focused on shape design, right? This is a graphical painting, right? This very clear black and white silhouette, it's extremely readable. Like, this is clearly what their focus was on, right? Like, without a doubt. Um, even something like this, right? It is, I mean, top down, it's basically a 2D graphical shape, using the light. Obviously, the boat is a little bit harder to tell, but you can see the silhouette of the boat. Um, to me, these are very graphical compositions, right? They're almost like they work basically as a 2D image. There might be a lot of texture in here and there might be a lot of rendering, but that's irrelevant to me. That rendering does not make, this image is designed as a 2D image, or 2D graphical image, right? Oh, I'm not sharing browser? Crap, sorry. Oh, yes, I am. I'm sharing browser. What do you mean? Or I'm sharing my screen. But yeah, so like these images to me are like whether or not they have lots of detail, you might look at it and be like, "Oh, look at all that detail. It's so beautiful. Look at all the rendering." Sure, maybe. Like maybe that's what you see, but I'm thinking about it from like an image point of view. Like what is the focus? And there is definitely a graphicalness to it. And that's kind of, I don't know, like in some ways, not all of my paintings are like that. A lot of them, especially if they're piecemealed together, kind of like the image I just worked on the other day. It started graphical, but then as I worked on it, it became less and less about that silhouette. So like here's the example. So this one started quite as a 2D graphic kind of thing where you have a clear distinct shape in here, right? It's all about this obvious silhouette, right? Very clear mountain shapes, right? But as the painting developed, because I started abandoning what I had done, right? So initially this was still very graphical, right? I kept a nice silhouette, but then I changed it. And this is where it got a little convoluted. I still try to keep the dragon to have a shape, but a lot of this stuff in here just kind of got lost and like I don't know, it's not as it didn't end up to me it doesn't read as well as it could have. I still try to keep it pretty graphical, and that was still the goal, is to have a composition that reads clear in black and white, clearly distinct shapes. Um, but yeah, I don't know, but I didn't really set this one up that way too much. I did end up focusing more on like rendering the rocks, and like in some ways like this was the focal point, which is not really the anyway. So yeah, this one got a little bit away from me. Oh, I thought you meant two before. Oh, gotcha. Of course, you'll see it when you look at it. Seeing is looking. Is that true? I don't know if that's true. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define those words, but I feel like looking and not and seeing. If it's like you can look for Where's Waldo and you can look at the page, but you might not see him. You're trying to find Waldo in an image, and you're still looking. You're looking at the whole thing, but you're not seeing every part of it. I think seeing is looking. Seeing is looking, but looking is not always seeing. Well, I feel like looking is an action, right? Seeing is like the result. So you could see something without having to actually look at it because it's just so big and in your vision. Like 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 sometimes you're driving and there's just something that jumps out at you and you see it, but you weren't really looking for it. I mean, I realize we're being very semantic-y here, but I think there's a lot of contexts where you want to use one and not the other. And then, but if you had a passenger in the car and they're like, "Oh, did you see that?" and then they say no, but then they start looking for it, right? Seeing also requires thought and interpretation. See, that's another way to describe it, right? Seeing can also be like understanding, kind of. Yeah, I mean, I think people draw a line between those all the time for good reason. But yeah, there's different ways and contexts that those words mean. They mean different things at different times. But anyway, that's very semantic-y, but yeah, I wouldn't call them the same thing. Seeing is typically the result of looking, if you actually find it. You can also look to no avail and not see, um, which I think is a, you know, like I wasn't gonna I was gonna make a statement about all artists or something where like well I think it's like it's sort of a I think every artist experiences a thing where they at some point are looking for like for some knowledge or they're searching and looking, but they struggle to like see the thing that they need to see. I don't know. You saw a mountain. I may not have grasped anything about. Yeah. That's different. And see, that's where I think people then use seeing as a more like philosophical word. I would say you still saw the mountain by seeing it. You may not have been looking for it, and then, but there's also an understanding, like, uh, like if you look at an image in black and white, you might see that it's in shapes, but you might not be paying attention. Like a portrait, right? Someone might look at a face and they are obviously seeing the face, but they're not really paying attention to like the edges of the light and shadow, right? Whereas an artist, they might be the thing they're training their brain to see is the or to focus on is to that light and shadow. And so some people when they first start painting, they're just drawing the eyeballs and the nose and the mouth. And then a more experienced artist is going to be say focusing on the shadow and the light, right? And that's something that, shadows are a thing that you kind of forget exist, right? Like when you're walking, when you're in your own apartment and you look at an object, you probably don't even notice that it has a shadow. Like, not really, right? It's there, but it fades into the background. If I look at a desk and I see a plate with a bunch of oranges on it or whatever, I'm not really noticing the shadow, right? I in some ways you might even say I'm not even seeing it. I'm just it's going sort of in one ear and out the other, except whatever the eyeball version of that is, in one eye and out the other. No, that's not how eyes work. I don't know. But yeah, so I think it's learning how to. For me, it's not even seeing; it's thinking. It's like I've never liked that artists are learning how to see. It's more like you're learning what to think about, what to focus on, it's the thinking. I don't know. But yeah, this is where the semantics of the word I think are less important. But there's different Yeah, just because you have eyes and just because your eyes are pointed at something doesn't mean you're paying attention to the thing. Because you can also be looking straight at something and be zoning off in your head, right? You could be so your vision could be so focused inward that you're not even paying attention to anything in front of your eyes. And no information is really making it to your brain because you're just daydreaming, right? And like, are you seeing stuff? Probably, but you're not seeing in the sense that like, oh, I see, right? Like it's a different word meaning. So there's so many different definitions of the word seeing, and that's where I think that's why I don't know. I don't like to when people are like, "Oh, you're training your eye." Right? I don't like that term. And not so much. It's because or like learning how to see. And that just feels like, do we really need another definition of the word see? Like, do we really need to just make that like just let's use a different word. You're learning how to think about what you see. Right? We see the same thing, but different people will be focused on different stuff. And also they'll get different things taken away from it. And you may also not see the same thing, right? Like, for example, if we both look at a Where's Waldo picture, I might be focused on the little cat in the picture, and you might be focused on Waldo. And, like, you may have never actually seen the cat. And if you start learning to look for the cat, then you'll start finding the cat. And that's, so, I mean, you guys get what I'm saying. It's kind of, I don't know why this conversation is not really important. It's loaded definitions, really. Yeah, there's just a lot of different definitions, and we're using them interchangeably. It's the same little sleight of hand that people do with the word theory when they talk about science to hypothesis to like, I have a hunch. They, using words interchangeably to like change the meaning of their sentences. And I think a lot of times we do this without realizing it, and I think people do that with the word sing. Yeah, we do this all the time. This is just one of those like human things where we have people like to reinvent definitions for words, which is fine, but then those definitions get adopted also, and then we have like one word that means 20 different things, and then we trick ourselves into thinking it's actually all the same word, even though it's not. And then confusion ensues. Which is why I said it. It was a sort of pun by taking different meaning of how you intended it. Gotcha. I didn't realize that was intentional. I thought you were making one of those platitudinal statements that are like, seeing is believing, or believing is seeing, or something, or whatever you said. I don't know what you said. But, because, like, I think there is a time and place for those statements to, like, yeah, those things are true. Like, they can be useful and thought-provoking. Like the statement, just because you're looking doesn't mean you're seeing. Like, I think that's a useful thing to remind people, because I think some people, if you've never thought about that concept, you're like, oh, you actually can see different things. Two people could be in the same spot looking at the same thing, and their takeaway is completely different. Like, that's a valuable... Also, what am I doing here? Hold on. Let's go back here. Context and intent matters, but not always obvious. Seems good to me. Yeah, I mean, definitely they're not always obvious. What's that saying? You judge yourself by your intents and other people by their actions, which I think is like, that's because you don't know their intents. Although sometimes we do assume people's intent. I think in art, right, we almost always assume other people's intent, because that's how we judge it. Like, you judge a scary movie, or you judge a horror movie based on the fact that you assume it's supposed to be scary, because it's in the category of horror. So if it's not scary, like, if you don't judge a horror movie and a comedy by the same metrics, right? And so you're always making an assumption when you see a movie of, like, does this fit the metrics that I think I should judge it by, right? If a comedy movie has some, like, phony acting, you're probably not gonna bat an eye because it's a comedy and it's like everything's so unrealistic. But if it's a super serious movie, you're gonna judge it by different standards. You got a gray rectangle on the left screen, by the way. Oh, I do. Look at that. Blue. Speaking of movies, Everest is the most terrifying thing I've seen in my life. I've never seen it. It's not supposed to be terrifying, right? Is Everest? It's not actually like a horror movie. It's a documentary, right? Okay, I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's try to loosen up because I liked it before I started. It's based on a true story. Gotcha. Not really a documentary. Okay, so it's like a. Okay, I think I know what you mean. I don't like the shapes of this. I'm sort of just playing around graphically until I can find some shapes that I like. Do I want these? I think I want these shapes to be square. These are going to be square. That's what's going to happen. Let's play around with some shapes here. Yeah, a lot of I haven't seen Everest, but I could imagine it being scary. I don't exactly know what it's about, but there's a lot of movies like that that are based on true stories that are pretty terrifying because they're terrifying in a different way than like spooky, you know. I always thought climbing Mount Everest, especially now, is just like stupid. It's at this point, it's like most people who do it are just basically paying people to take them up the mountain to say that they climbed a mountain when it's like they didn't. I don't know. Like I mean, they kind of did, but I don't know. It just feels like a. I don't really get it. I don't understand why you would want to climb Mount Everest in 2025 with all the Sherpa stuff. Yeah, you're basically. I just don't really understand it. I don't get why people would want to climb Mount Everest in 2025. I don't. I don't get it. There's so much just like waste and yeah, dead bodies and just like it's not even like if you ever see like video footage of people on Mount Everest, it's not even like you're basically just standing in a long line of human waste and garbage as you go up this mountain in a it's like what I don't get it. I don't see the appeal. To make love to the mountain, to envelop the mountain. Why is he climbing the mountain? Because he's I don't know. I assume that's a quote, but I don't know what you're talking about, Vegas. It's a quote from something, I'm sure. Probably Friends. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think about how to paint this or what I want to do with this. Maybe there's a something over here. Maybe this all can go pushed back a little bit. And then maybe there's some more shapes up here that are a little bit more in definition. No, I'm not going to do that right now. Why is Kirk climbing the mountain? I'm sure it's good, but... trying to paint this. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing here. And I'm kind of on a roll, and I'm liking where I'm going with it, but I want to... Captain Kirk. Everybody else should do it right now, though. It's very important, according to Vegas, that everybody drop what they're doing and Google, why is Kirk climbing the mountain? It is Captain Kirk? Okay. Ooh, that's not a bad idea right here. Where I'm putting some more foreground shapes in. Maybe some not mountains, some buildings here. Now I'm thinking about mountains. I don't know if I like this though. But I mean I do like it. I like what I'm doing with this. I am trying to think about graphical shape. I should probably make these more... It's some meme that I don't understand. Yeah, I feel like a lot of stuff... I don't know. A lot of memes I find that like have more context than people think. I don't know. This is a thing that happens a lot to me where someone will say like there will be a meme that's funny and people are like, "Oh, you don't need to understand this. You don't need to see the first episode." And then you actually do, because the stuff that makes it funny is like the character development or who the characters are, and like there's all this other context that you have that makes it more funny. And so the people will tell you, "Oh, you don't actually need to see the first episode. You don't need to know what's going on. It stands on its own." And you're like, "No, it doesn't." And it happens a lot with memes where like, "Oh, the meme is so good," and it's like you actually need to know some of the story, because even though it's not technically relevant in the sense of like in the truest sense of the word being relevancy, but it's like it is relevant for you to care about the meme in the first place, kind of. I don't know. It's one of the things I struggle with, like trying to learn about internet culture and stuff, and it's like if I wasn't there for it when it happened, I really just don't care and everything feels stupid to me. But I know it's not, and I know that if I were there it would be awesome and funny and I would like it. But you looked it up, it's Shatner trying to describe weirdly climbing the mountain, you guess? Gotcha. Like, I think if you liked William Shatner and you really were like into him and you liked his personality, anything he says in a silly way would be hilarious, because you already have that context of William Shatner. Like that's, a lot of people are like that with a lot of actors, and I can see, I think William Shatner's kind of funny, and I could see myself liking that. But it is hard to relate to the stuff like that sometimes. All you need to know is Star Trek 5 or 6 starts with Captain Kirk free climbing a mountain and falls, and Spock saves him. Gotcha. I am very indecisive today. I don't know what I'm doing with this painting. I like... What if I do this? Do I just make this super far away and epic? Far away and epic. No, far away and lots of foreground. In D&D, I have a homebrew spell called Shatner where you get a Christmas boost, but you have to talk with Shatner's cadence. That's funny. Don't even know what Shatner's cadence is. I'd have to watch something with him in it to remember. It's been too long since I've seen him in anything. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do here. I'm not... Something about just making a big castle is not working. Maybe I'll go like this. I like my paths. I think having paths in here just makes everything feel better. And then maybe the paths have houses or something along the line on the edge of it. I don't know what I'm doing here. This painting is falling apart. What did it look like at first? It looked like this. Do I start over? I think I do. I like this better. Or at the very least, maybe I bring some of this back. Maybe that. I'll keep some of it. Okay, let's do something else. Let's okay, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm going to start over, but I'm gonna use some of this like red highlighter. To add some planes here. Not airplanes, but like, you know, ground plane. Different planes in perspective. Or like different physical planes. Like the side plane and the under plane, whatever you want to call it. Helicopters, yes, different, exactly. Planes of existence, yes. Interdimensional planes. Okay, looks like a giant grain silo or something. Probably should make that smaller. Some sketching of shapes here. Trying to sketch in some shapes. There we go. trying to just add some of these things. Maybe here. Little bits of shape. I'm starting to like this. I think this kind of thing, when you're using line like this, super loose, it can be nice because it can help make it feel like almost like a shanty town. You can start building shapes up. And so even though I started with graphical shape. This is what I was talking about a couple streams ago. Someone asked if like, do I ever start with lines, or oh, I want to be able to paint like you with not using lines. And I think my response was like, I do use lines. I just don't always start with lines. Sometimes I start like this, where I'm starting not with lines, but now I am using lines. I'm using lines for almost the whole thing in some ways. Not the whole thing. Maybe the underside of these clouds. I was trying to come up with a universe for a story the other day, just for the S and Gs, where things like dark energy and dark matter affect from a fourth spatial dimension. We couldn't see them, but we could feel the effects. Gotcha. Yeah, I always liked story. So the story I'm reading now, I'm not gonna like get into the nitty gritty of it, but there's this thing where like you sort of see the tippy top. It's very much the iceberg principle in writing, where like there's all this lore, underneath the iceberg, and there's all this lore, and all you see is the tippy top, and like you kind of know that there's like a twist, kind of like this things aren't quite as they seem, and so something is introduced as like this thing is really bad, but wait, no, it's actually good. Wait, is it bad? And like as you learn about it, each time you learn about this thing, your opinion of it changes, because you just don't know what to think, and so it's like it's not just like, oh, the good guy turns out to be the bad guy, but it's like, is the good guy a bad guy? Also, are we the bad guys, or like are the bad guys actually bad? Like everything's changing, and it's really, I quite like it. It's because you just keep learning more about the world, and motives, and why things are the way they are. And I'm sure that's quite common in writing, but it makes it fun, where it's like you see the effects of things that I mean, it's not literally like you said, dimension, but it's like you're seeing the effects of things that are sort of like unknown, and as you learn about them and what actually they are, you're like, oh, I never would have predicted this. I know that's not at all what you're talking about, but I just wanted to go on that ramble. Hi everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Thank you. I am doing well. Can't speak for everyone though, but I'm doing great. Today's a nice day. I have a little bit of a runny nose. I might be getting a cold. Hopefully I'm not getting sick. I don't think I'm getting sick. Maybe just a bit of a cold. Some sniffles, which is okay. Trying to sketch in some forms right now for this thing. Trying to make a big old castle. Or maybe, yeah, some sort of big castle. I don't know if I like the form of it, but there is some stuff that's kind of neat. Kind of gives me like circus tent vibes. I like how you just paint without line art. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of making up lines here just on the fly. I don't know exactly if it's good. This isn't the greatest way to do it. This reminds me of like circus tent a little bit. There's something here that's kind of fun. But yeah, it's fun. I like this way of painting. But I'm not sure what's going on here. It's very interesting. Whatever I'm doing, I kind of like it. Now I'm trying to just make it a little bit more believable, the lighting. But yeah, I'm glad you like it. I enjoy painting this way. I mean, I kind of am doing line art. I mean, again, not really line art specifically as like as a single term, but like I am adding lines, right? Like I absolutely am. And I am doing a lot of construction and I'm drawing, some like these lines here, I didn't add a single lines, but then I might come back in and add some lines. But then other places I literally start with lines and then I come in and add shadows later. So I'm kind of just doing a combination of lines and like here I'm adding lines, although they're kind of thick lines, but they're lines. I feel like graphically this thing is. I want to try some stuff. Let's go multiply. Let's add some multiply. Trying to add some some blues in here. Maybe now we add some taller structures. Could do something like that. No, maybe not. I'm trying to think, how do I want to do this? We could go like this. Hmm. Gotta think about this. Maybe here. Something like that, maybe? I think that works. And then now I'm going back in and now I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well how might these work? You know, are these gonna be tiles? And so I do add some little details. Maybe they're overlapping here. And then maybe there's shingles or something. Maybe there's some shapes in here. I don't know. I'm trying to carve out some, trying to figure out what shapes I want stuff. Yeah, I might bounce between the foreground, like these shapes, and the midground here that I haven't decided. And maybe I then jump to the background in an attempt to figure out the midground. Because like if I can figure out a shape that works in the background, maybe I can repeat it in the foreground. So I do that sometimes. I definitely jump all over when I'm painting, though. I think it can get a little confusing to watch. Like, to me, I don't get confused. I find it quite straightforward, but I can see how it could be confusing. What about up here? What do I want to do? Do I want more of... a giant wall of clouds, maybe? I don't think so. We could go brighter blue up top, like a dark... I don't think I want that brighter blue, though. I think the lighter blue is nice, and then the darker blue down below. Which is a little bit opposite of how I think normal environments are. Maybe let's try it one more glow dodge. So obviously I don't want to go like that, right? That's too much. But we might be able to add in just a little bit of warmth into some of this if we want. Especially like down here. Trying to figure out where we want the light to go. Like maybe we want lanterns here, or maybe there's like a indoor area with light here. So we kind of have like a path. So obviously this is the main part, but then we also have like a little path here, and then we have a light here. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking, like, okay, well, what if we put some lights here in like windows? Maybe that's a good way to do it. And so now I'm going to come in here. I made a new layer. I'm just going to straight up pick the color that I already have, or the colors that I have. Maybe we'll do double panes like this, or 3. And then curtains or something here. And maybe some dark undershade shadow stuff. Maybe some bluish colors on top. But maybe it's underneath the... Maybe we have like a top row that's a little bit, you know, kind of cappy like that. Where we have the top of the ridges. Then we have a bit of a shadow. And then down here we can have like shapes. Some of these shapes, especially on the ridges, can have a little bit of light. I don't know if that quite looks right, but then we can have the same light down here. Making little ridges, implying some of those shapes going back. I think that's nice. And then maybe we can even get away with doing light ridges down here, now that we kind of have established what these are. We could almost add these back here like that, and we might even know what they are. I don't know if that is quite right, but... maybe there's little tents or buildings over here. Just extending all this stuff off. Maybe a little bit of an archway here, where you can see the underside of these. Kind of like this. I'm still not totally sold on this thing that I'm doing. Maybe this one needs some caps up here. I don't know what you call them. The top of the top part. Okay, there's that. What else? Maybe shapes here. These shapes can be a little more square. I kind of like it. Do I like the colors though? That's what I don't know. Not that it matters. I mean, I don't know if I like the colors of the overall. I mean, I think I like the color palette, but you know, the saturation, the nuance, that kind of thing, right? That's what I'm not sure. So maybe what I'll try is I'll do an edit, tonal correction, hue saturation, and what if I just crank up saturation? I obviously don't want it this much. That's ridiculous. But if I tone it down, I might be able to do something like this, where I do like a layer mask, and I can just bring in... like, what if, for example, what if just the sky was bright? Right? Maybe that's too much. What if just these were bright down here? So, like, just in the shadows, right? Bright reds, bright blues, right? All the bright colors in the shadow. But everything else is quite dim. I kind of like that, right? I like the idea that it's kind of gray on top, and then it's quite bright down below with all these saturated colors. I think that's nice. So I'm going to go with that. That's something that's a quite common thing. I didn't just invent this. But having like, you know, typically you want either your shadows or your light saturated. And so I'm actually going to knock back the saturation on these lights a little bit by making them, some of them just a little bit more bright. Maybe even grayer. Probably not. Probably just brighter. So I'll probably take the same color, just literally bring it to white, or closer to white. And just add in some lines. That way the lights can be a little oversaturated or overexposed. And then the shadows are the things that are underexposed, and so you have all of this detail and nuance of color in there. But the lights are pretty much just blown out. And so down in here is where you actually get the interesting stuff. And I'm going to bring some of that blue in to the shadows. some of these, if there's literal white stripes on here. I'm gonna add some of those stripes in the blue. Also, some of this red can fill in because, again, there's a lot of bounce light. So a lot of these shadows, I can just use that red to fill in some of that grayish color. Gonna make some of these deep shadows a little reddish. And then maybe up top we can do little flags. We can do like a white flag waving. Maybe a couple. A couple white flags. Maybe one over here too. There's lots of stuff we can do here. I do like this. I wonder if we can't put some more orange back here. Hello, Frostern. Do you know Novigrad? I don't know. Not by name, but I might. If I see it, I might. Frostern, how are you? From the Whitker. I don't know what that is. Nope. Not ringing a bell. No flag, no country. That's the rule I made up. I just made up. What is that from? Doing good, but been so busy with Christmas plans and getting ready for Christmas. Yeah, it's hectic. I could rant about the holidays. I don't like the hustle and bustle of the holidays. It's too stressful. I got some Christmas stuff to send out, but mostly I'm done with my Christmas stuff. Mostly. Oh, that's not right. Anyway, there we go. See, I am liking this. I'm a little bit on the fence with some of this stuff, especially like this this path we had in here. I don't really know why it's even there. Other than just paths are fun. Also, what is this? This is a big mess. Not sure I don't or do because I always go after 8 p.m. Or so early no one wants to be at the store. But then in between time has been doing other stuff, wrapping, cooking, or whatever else. Yeah. Can say I don't or do. Not sure I can say I don't. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people really love the holidays. It's just too much for me. I'm like a mostly keep to myself person. And so holidays just feels like a lot. I mean, I do like it. I like the holidays, but it's exhausting. Like mostly the thing I look forward to most in the holidays is it to be over with. And I don't maybe I'm alone there. I don't know. Maybe other people feel the same. Like I do I don't know. I kind of feel like the holidays in some ways the way I feel about like doing art sometimes or like working out or doing chores where like I'm always glad that I did it, right? I'm glad that I got together with family. I'm glad that the stuff was done. But I just don't I'm not always in the mood for it, and more often than not I'm not. Maybe not with art. Sometimes I mean I like art, but a lot of times on my own, like I find other things to do instead of art. But I'm always glad that I've done it, right? After I do the art or after I, you know, maybe even like cleaning or something. You know, you always feel good. You're like, oh, I'm glad I did that. Sometimes it's sort of a sigh of relief that like, thank goodness it's over. I don't have to do that for another while. But also it's, I don't know. I have mixed feelings when it comes to Christmassy stuff like that or holiday stuff. I feel that. Frosterin says it does tire me out a lot, but my family is always doing games and partying. So long as I get this part out of the way, I don't have to hang out with them. Gotcha. Curse Ducky, hello. How's it going? Okay, I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm going to take a smudge tool, a blur brush, smudge brush, and I'm just gonna start smudging. I'm actually gonna smudge not my image, but the sky, and up to my image. So in some ways, it's like I'm actually making hard edges. So like, for example, this edge here, I'm going to smudge it. And this edge, which is already smudgy and blurry, I'm going to smudge it to make harder edge stuff, to actually define some of these edges. Because if I smudge up to the shape, it'll make that hard edge. But also it's, you know, kind of smudgy still. Like value-wise, it'll be soft, but you know, in an objective sense, it's quite still a hard edge. The colors are just getting softer. I don't know. This might be a stupid technique, but it's something that I'm trying, and I've done it before, and I think it's worked. Kind of going along. Kind of also like cleaning some of these shapes. I can make a little bit more. I don't know. I can play around with the shape a little bit more with the smudge brush in sort of a soft way. So like if I make clouds with the smudge brush, I take the dark shape that I already have there, and I know I want the dark shape, but by only smudging outward, I kind of ensure that the shape overall is quite smudgy. Smudge brush painting. Could also come in here and smudge some stuff. I don't know if I want to. Trying to be careful. I don't want my paint to look blurry, but I do think at this stage, because it's not super finished, it can be nice to come in here and just make choices. Whereas before I had a lot of this chaotic brushwork. Being able to come in and make choices is nice though. Kind of gives a softness to it, which I like. Vegas says, I would ever say I feel good after doing chores, but I guess it's relief, but it's still in a grumpy way that it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about this. That's interesting though. Yeah, I mean I'm not I'm never grumpy that I did chores. It's I don't know. Like I'll drag my feet on doing something that I should do, and then finally when I do it, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I bit the bullet and did it. I don't like that phrase though. Bite the bullet. That's a weird phrase. Froster says, besides if I go at these late times to store, I don't have to deal with other people for the most part either. Yeah. I like going to the store. Well, I don't know. So as somebody who has worked at a store for quite a while, most of the time people are like, "Oh, I want to go to the store and this time when they're not busy." It's like, yes, but that's also when they have the least amount of workers. And so like they always try to balance the amount of workers with the amount of customers. And so you're always basically gambling, right? Like if you I haven't found a good time to like always go to the store. Because if it's a time where they're never busy, then it's like the one cashier will be wandering around doing stuff instead of actually helping people because they don't have anything to do. And then you have to like wait forever for them to figure out that you're a customer. And so that's annoying. Oh, maybe it's more about the noise. True. Yeah, if it's about the noise, that's fair. Yeah, going in the quiet times is nice. Yeah, good point, Drufzilla. I didn't really think about that. Yeah, noise and input. Good point. Yeah. I don't know. I sometimes like to go in sort of the like I don't know. I can get a little overstimulated in the grocery store, but the biggest thing for me is like talking to people. And I find that in the slightly busy times is when the cashier in particular, especially if it's a place that I worked at where they kind of know me, like I don't want to talk to you. Like I just want to buy my stuff and leave. Please don't chit chat. Just because you have seen me before doesn't mean we're best friends. And like, can you please just scan my items and I'll pay and I'll leave? And like, I don't want to talk. So if I go during a quiet time, that's when the most chatting's going to happen, and I don't like that. So I actually prefer a little bit of a busy time, but I also don't want it so busy that like other people in line are like, there and chatting and like talk. You don't want to be like stuck between like two families with a bunch of children and they're like trying to like they're running into you and stuff because the little kids are like you don't want that either. And so it's sort of this mix of like you want it this optimal for me I want it like the optimal amount of busy where I don't have to talk to anyone because they're just trying to do their job and not chit chat, but also not so busy that it's a chaotic mess and people are getting grumpy while waiting and walking around and like bumping into you. Like you want to be able to wander the store without having to like dodge traffic. So it's I don't know, I just haven't found a great time. The store just for me sucks. I have opinions on this. Very opinionated on my grocery store shopping. Exactly, because I do want to hang out with people. It just tires me, and I have wandered with noises, but I have selective hearing, so I have to actually focus on sounds to make sure I don't miss something, which I think is why I get tired out more. Yeah, yeah, I get exhausted in busy and noisy places. There's just so much stimulus that like it's just draining. I normally though wear like headphones and stuff when I go to the store, just like earbuds to listen to something because I don't need to hear the noises of people talking and stuff. So I'd rather just listen to a audiobook or whatever. So it's a lot of that. So that the noise itself isn't a huge deal. It's more of this the visual stuff. There's so many people, and you have to kind of pay attention. Then being half impaired because you can't hear makes it even worse because now you have to really pay attention. But yeah, as somebody who has worked at grocery stores for a very long time, I really don't like grocery stores, and most of them, at least in the U.S. So I haven't been like every grocery store I've been to in the US has more or less been the same in sort of their. Actually, I was reading this thing. I don't know how true it is, but um, it was some article breakdown thing of like times when American American businesses tried to take their business overseas and failed. And then people were recounting stories. I think it was just on Reddit, actually. People were recounting stories of like why they failed. And pretty much the tale that kept popping up is that the American like work culture just was so different. Like I think in one place in Germany, or maybe in Germany somewhere, they tried to. It might have been maybe not Germany. They tried to open a Walmart somewhere, but they had all the greeters and stuff at the store, and it was making people really uncomfortable to like have all the cashiers be greeting you and asking you questions and just basically getting in your business when like they just wanted to buy their stuff and get out, like I do. And it's like I totally relate to that. I feel like, you know, the few grocery stores not in the US that I've been to have all been so much better from like a cultural point of view of like what their priorities are. And it's always bothered me with US grocery stores where the amount of like niceties and chit chat and like, dude, just, you know, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have to. Like, I don't want you to like talk to me. Like if you want to say hello, fine, whatever. But don't ask me a million questions. And then of course the businesses like to like they like, because they like the cashiers chatting, they will do things that encourage them to chat but also push an agenda. Like, would you like to donate to Children's Charity Foundation today? And it's like, why are you asking me questions about this? Like, please don't. Like, just, can I be on with my way? Like, I don't want to answer a bunch of random survey questions and tell you what could be improved with the store. Like, this is not what I'm here for. Like, I understand you're already chatting and the store is pushing this, but like, I don't like those sort of ridiculous friendliness that happens in grocery stores, and it always bothers me. I don't know. And like, I totally get it. When I moved to Las Vegas, to the Midwest, everybody was so much more friendly and stuff. It was actually kind of annoying. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a difference between being friendly and like having the expectation of a conversation, right? I think if someone says hello, right, you can say hello back and that's fine. But even just in like the language, a lot of American like ways of saying hello, they won't actually say hello. They'll say, "How's it going?" Now, they're not actually hoping for a response, but also like maybe they are, right? And maybe that's where I get confused, because like if someone says, "How's it going?" I kind of want to answer them, right? I don't really treat it as just a general greeting. And I don't want to tell you how I'm doing. I don't think that's relevant to either of us, right? Like that's not something I want to do. And please don't ask me how. Like, I ask people how they're doing. Although on stream I've been trying to say like, hope you're doing well, right? That way you don't have to tell me if you aren't, you know. And it's just I don't know, at least when I go shopping and I'm there for a different reason. It's one thing if you're going out like in a social event, right, or something, or you're doing something social. Like, sure, then you can be social and people, you know, you shouldn't be grumpy if other people are trying to be social to you in a social setting. But to me, grocery shopping should not qualify as a social setting, right? It's like, you're tired, you just got off work, the last thing you want to do. So anyway, that's my feelings there. Kulayelo, how's it going in chat? What's up? What's up? Or you didn't say how's it going. Hey there, in chat. What's up? What's up? What is up? I am painting and rambling. I'm a little bit sick. Got the sniffles today, which is okay, but I'm hanging in there. Not too bad. Pretty happy with the painting, actually. Things are going well. Painting's going good. Trying to figure out this last little bit here. Clouds are up here right now all over the place. Is that another saying? Yeah, Walmart failed in Germany. Been to one, but they didn't have greeters, but they were just a little bit too big and messy and felt like Germans like to go to specialized stores. I recently read Taco Bell will come to Germany next year. I feel like it will fail. I saw something where like Little Caesars in the US went to Italy, and you know, if you're trying to open like an American pizza chain in Italy, you're probably not going to succeed, because That's just silly. Um, anyway, I just thought it was funny. But yeah, anyway, a lot of these things, it's just like American business people. And I recall someone saying that like there were cases where you have like German business people telling the American business people why things aren't working, and then the American business people are so far up their own behinds that they just don't even listen, and they're like, no, trust me, this is how we're gonna do it, and then they end up failing because of that. And it's like there is this sort of like an extremified version um of like this sort of niceness in especially grocery stores, but in business in general, where it's like everybody is very like assertive and aggressive and in your face, and it's like again, and maybe some people like this, and maybe if you're like super crazy social butterfly and you love this kind of attention all the time, or you have a giant ego, I don't know what it is, but I just don't see how this is appealing for most people. Maybe some people love it, not me. Certainly not me. I quite despise it, but it's just everywhere. It's like hard to escape in the US, at least from what I've seen. I have not been to a place. I mean, there's sometimes you get like a certain cashier who's like super mellow and like they're clearly tired and they just don't want to talk either, and that's great. I'm gonna smudge these undersides here. Smudging the stuff in the background a little bit, also in the foreground. I still should figure out what the heck's going on up here. Especially Little Caesars of all places. I wouldn't consider Pizza Hut or whatever that spectacular for most people, but at least they're good in a simplistic way, so that might be able to make it. But even that would be difficult. It's just, I feel like there's just like I don't know. It's just a weird. I don't know. I feel like a lot of these businesses that do things the way American businesses do it, it's like you start out with a very particular way of doing things, and that you kind of over time you ramp up because like this person's more friendly than us. Oh, we gotta be a little more friendly than them. Oh, we gotta one up them, right? And everybody's like trying to sort, and it's like the culture changes into this weird thing that is unrecognizable, and to us it felt normal because it happened incrementally, to the point where like it just, when you kind of step back and you're like why are we here, how did we get here, this is so extreme and bizarre. um like I think in, I don't know, like I actually was wondering about this with like car dealerships, because I in the US I think it's illegal to buy a car from the manufacturer. You have to go through a dealership. So I think some manufacturer, and maybe that's not true anymore. But I think for a long time, and obviously you can buy like used cars, right? But there was this thing where like basically dealerships are written into law in some way. I don't exactly know the nitty gritty of it, but it's like important that you'd go through dealerships. And then of course dealerships have this weird culture of like not posting the price of the car, and like the listed price is not the real price, and like you can haggle and do weird stuff. It's like this whole system of buying things like cars is so bizarre to me. I don't know if other countries do the same way, but it just feels strange that like you don't list the price that you actually will sell it for. You can't buy it from the people who make it. You have to go through a third. Like everything just felt weird. It like I don't, I know that most people are like, "Oh, it's not that weird because it's the norm and you've dealt with it forever." But it just, it seems bizarre. Like if you, from someone who, you don't buy anything else in life this way. Maybe houses, I guess. Like you kind of make offers and stuff. But that kind of makes sense because there isn't like a, you know, every house is different, whereas every car is not different from every other car. You have makes and models, and you know how much it costs to make the car, so you should know how much you can sell it for and make a profit. Like, haggling with customers feels weird for cars. I don't know. Maybe I'm just grumpy. But yeah. Yeah, anyway, I'm Peyton. We're wrapping up here. I'm just putting some finishing touches on this. Not really finishing touches, but final touches for the day. Kinda like this. Haggling is more for used cars as new cars? Oh, interesting. I haven't really bought new cars, but I feel like it's pretty common that like you can get prices down, and also they try to constantly like they get annoyed apparently if you try to pay in full or like in cash because they want you to get into like a bit more expensive like payment plans and stuff. And like just the whole culture around car dealerships and prices and being sort of obfuscated, and the stuff is I don't know. I don't like, isn't it a pretty well-known thing that, like, if you pay sticker price for a car, you're overpaying? Maybe that's not anymore. I don't know. Hopefully it's not that way anymore. It just feels like I mean, I don't even know about scummy. It's just like a weird... It's like we have a better system, and yet we haven't changed out of it, because in some cases I think there's literal laws that, like, you can't... Like, I don't think anyone can just... I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's laws around, like, regulation of car dealerships and who sells cars and all that. Anyway. I am not knowledgeable on this topic. Okay. I am going to end stream, though, because I am... My nose is sniffly still, and I'm pretty happy with where we ended up today. Although first I want to make sure this building looks something. But yeah, here's a good, or I shouldn't say good, but here's a painting from today. I'm quite happy with it. We'll sign it. We will sign it as my name, because that's my name. There we go. Great. I had fun with this one. It was pretty chill. I don't know if I'll still like it next time I see it, but I'm pretty happy that we have some nice lighting, some decent colors. It's fun. Azel Ruthven, thanks for being here. You were here the whole time, weren't you? That's crazy. Thank you so much for all the support and kindness of being here. Careful with the shapes of your towers there, Joe. I know. I know, it's always a thing at Vegas when I'm making tower shapes. You gotta be very careful when you're making tall pillars. With little... Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Alright. We are gonna raid. Handing out great. Thanks for the stream. Yeah, no worries. Thanks for being here. Already, yep, I'm done for the day. Already done. I need to get something to eat and maybe rest. Already done. Oh, I hear my voice. Let's raid that Art Jack. They raided us recently. And I want to raid them. It's been a long time since we've gone over there. Although they might be ending. I don't know.
So I keep things around the house. I don't want to draw them.
All right. Well, we will raid them before they raid us. I don't think they're gonna raid us, but we'll go over there. See you guys. Thanks for being here. Very much appreciate you. It means a lot for you sticking around. I will be live next. When will I be live? Monday. I'll be live on Monday. And then I think on Tuesday, I'm actually going to do a special stream. I'm streaming on Tuesday as well with Casey Snow. But next stream will be Monday as normal. So take care. See ya.